rapper whose star was on the rise in the music industry has been killed.
All right, young Dolph was shot in broad daylight.
The man who proclaimed to be the, quote, king of Memphis. The same streets he loved so much is where he would take his last breath.
This Ridge Credit, that's where your boy started out at, right here on these same streets.
Salute us and get shot.
Now, there was some sort of altercation between you and Yo Gotti a while back.
It's really never about me and him, it was about his entourage and my entourage.
Memphis is the most dangerous city in the country.
Memphis, Tennessee is the homicide capital of America per capita.
Put the camera at Chopper Gang, whole lot of pirates.
Y'all know the KBG Chopper Gang. Trulla Mafia, General.
Hey, now what's the mark people that don't know? Richard Ruthless before we rich.
Investigators call the young mob a violent street gang involved in arson, drug trafficking, and even kidnapping.
Walking home, my young mob military.
Why they call you Spooky Dude?
You got extra streets there, you know, you get scared, I just stand on what I stand on.
Found Justin Johnson guilty Thursday on all 3 counts in the murder of Memphis rapper Young Dolph.
Anthony Jook Mims was the top of the chain when it came to the bounty on Dolph.
I heard of it that way, you know, the attempted hits on Dolph, but at that point I hadn't heard anything about someone trying to do anything to Gotti.
Had any incidents or shootings that you might think are related to what happened?
The Memphis comedian
Big Moda,
See Money.
Gotti's brother,
CEO TZ, killed, shot to death.
fighting for his life.
The gunfire erupted during the Lil Baby concert.
This is it's one of them places right now to where it might be too hot, so your music and your movement gotta outrun that.
Recently, I did a deep dive video about the gangster rap scene in St. Louis, a city often referred to as the murder capital due to it frequently topping the highest charts for per capita homicide rates in America. But if there's one city that gives St. Louis a run for its money, it's Memphis, which not only commonly ranks amongst the top cities when it comes to the murder rate, but has also for several decades now been named as the most dangerous city in America due to it having the highest violent crime rate overall, with even having specific neighborhoods that rank as the worst in the nation. The situation has become so dire that just months ago, FBI Director Kash Patel described Memphis as the new homicide capital of America, announcing a federal intervention. Shortly after, President Trump made it official, deploying teams from nearly every major federal law enforcement agency in an effort to stem the city's out-of-control violence.
Memphis
That's the next city.
deeply troubled. Going to Memphis, I'm just announcing that now, and we'll straighten that out.
National Guard?
The National Guard and anybody else we need. And by the way, we'll bring in the military too if we need it.
And when it comes to the violence plaguing Memphis, nothing has shaken the city or the rap world quite like the cold-blooded assassination of Young Dolph in November 2021, which sent shockwaves not over just the city, but the entire world. The alleged killers were eventually captured and found to be possibly connected to the inner circle of Dolph's biggest op in Memphis, Yo Gotti. But rumor has it, Dolph wasn't just the victim of a rap feud that had gone wrong, but allegedly, him and his paper route empire had previously made serious attempts to take Yo Gotti's life, with few people realizing that had Young Dolph not lost his life when he did, we likely would have been hearing about Yo Gotti losing his life.
And I met Cornelius through Bobby, and so I stepped outside, and that's when he mentioned to me, he was like, man, they ain't trying to do nothing about Dolph trying to kill Gotti. So at that point, I never heard of that incident. You know, I heard of it, if you reverse it, I done heard of it that way, you know, the attempted hits on Dolph, but at that point I hadn't heard anything about someone trying to do anything to Gotti.
But before the courts could deliver justice for Young Dolph, the streets would act again, and the man, according to allegations who had been the mastermind behind the murder, Gotti's brother, Big Jook, was himself gunned down in a savage hit after a funeral of a family member in what seemed like a clear revenge attack for Dolph. And Jook was by no means the only one, as seemingly one after another, people were killed in the streets of Memphis in a succession that many videos afterwards, including one of mine, would call the campaign to slide for Dolph. Clearly, there were serious hitmen working the streets on both sides of this war. But the Young Dolph story is only the tip of the iceberg, because in this video, we'll be digging much deeper to try and understand all of the overlapping murders and feuds that have made Memphis the most dangerous city in America, warranting the government to step in. This is a deep dive that will fully uncover everything about the Young Dolph case and beyond, uncovering a number of lesser-known beefs all tangled together in a web of shifting alliances and long-standing rivalries that have been going under the radar in Memphis for years, with many of these involving some of the most popular rappers from the city, and unfortunately, also dozens of casualties and people who have lost their lives as a result of these rivalries playing out long before and after Young Dolph's untimely demise. So today, we're digging deeper than ever before to uncover what's really happening in the streets of Memphis, exposing the brutal gang wars that have taken more lives than almost any other city, and also how this shocking violence might have birthed some of the biggest rappers the music industry has ever seen. Hey, look, it's your boy Traplo Ross, man. This video is sponsored by Raycon.
Big
They got the same premium audio quality as the big brands for half the price. So if you working a little paper route right now, you need some Raycons in your ear. Let's get it. Raycons, I'm jogging, but they stay on. I need the new Raycons. The ops just dropped a diss, man. What you think I'm gonna play it on? 3 mil happy customers, there ain't no way that they all wrong. Shut up and get my Raycons. I just put my Raycons in, now everything lit. Wearing Raycon every day, and yeah, the sound is crystal clear. Open ear design, so outside of my ear canal it fits perfectly, cause I don't wanna drop my Raycons in a gym. If you want them, I'm the plug. Essential open earbuds mean your ears are still open, but your music's turned up. The sound's crystal clear, just like a diamond in the rough. Long commute without my Raycons, man, I swear that's gonna be tough. And they're lit, sleek, smart, fresh, and cooler than the others. They're not bulky, big, or heavy, they're lightweight for all-day comfort. A secure fit keeps them right in place when you go running. 36 hours on the battery keeps the bangers coming. Raycons, I'm jogging, but they stay on. I need the new Raycons. The ops just dropped a diss, man. What you think I'm gonna play it on? 3 mil happy customers, there ain't no way that they all wrong. Shut up and get my Raycons. Hey, shut up and buy these Raycons, man. Just click that link in the description box or go to buyraycon.com/traplawross to get 30% off the essential open earbuds. I ain't hearing what anybody got to say. I got my Raycons in, go buy them. If you want to watch my videos uncut and extended, go to patreon.com/traplawross where you can get those for just $2. Also, you can now watch my new drops on Spotify, so go search me there. Here's the video. Memphis stands alone as one of America's most culturally and historically significant cities. It's the birthplace of the blues and home to Sun Studio, where legends like Elvis Presley and Johnny Cash helped pioneer rock and roll. However, Memphis has also been a city of gangs for a very long time. Gangs that started as simple street crews doing petty robberies and drug dealing, but as the crack epidemic worsened all over America, including Memphis, there were also more specialized and well-organized gangs, or what the newspapers were calling Mafia-style operations, handling the drug trade in the city. One of the most known was the Govan family, which included members like Dirty Red, Skinny Pimp, and Scarface, who according to the feds operated the largest drug ring in the city's history. This gang, which specialized in trafficking cocaine from LA to Memphis, was led by the ringleader Eric Govan, whose name you'll hear mentioned again much later in this story, as two people part of Govan's organization were Linda Faye Mims and Jeanette Govan, wife of Eric, who were both aunts of the rapper Yo Gotti, real name Mario Central Gideon Mims. Yet still, the local authorities were trying to claim that there were currently no organized street gangs operating in Memphis, although some gang members from Los Angeles had tried setting up operations there. This was of course as far from the truth as possible, and during the 90s, the gang problem would completely explode in the city as the Bloods and Crips would also become an inescapable part of the city's gangscape. But something else would also take place as the wicked streets of Memphis inspired a completely new rap subgenre to form in the city, with uniquely dark lyrics and beats that combine the stories from the gang life with otherworldly lyrics about worshipping the devil. Coming into the 90s, the crack epidemic was reaching its peak, bringing violence to all-time highs, with Memphis being no exception. Facilitating both much of the drug trade and the violence were the street gangs, which now included numerous Blood and Crip sets who had spread their influence from the West Coast all over to America in an effort to take over the national dope game. This included gangs like the Grape Street Crips, the Rollin' 60s and Rollin' 20s, and the Hoovers on the Crip side, as well as the Harvard Park Brims, Red Clover Gangsters, and Pyrus on the Blood side. Many of these gangs at the time operated from the infamous public housing projects in Memphis that have since been demolished, like Hurt Village, Foot Homes, and Lemoyne Gardens, which was home to a GD set known as the LMG, aka Lemoyne Gardens Mafia, or Love Murdering Gangsters. This gang became one of the largest and most feared in South Memphis, committing everything from robberies and car thefts to kidnappings and murders. Their leader, George Hewlett, aka G-Train, would himself be accused of numerous serious crimes through the 90s, but in the end, he would end up being caught by the ops before the law could get him, as he was ambushed outside of a South Memphis club in 1999. But right before he was killed, G-Train tried to cement the LMG's legacy in music too, forming a rap group called the LMG Mafia, who in 1998 dropped an album called Southside Soldiers. In the intro, G-Train would set the tone of the album with his gritty voice while talking over a raw, dark beat with an eerie melody and a sample of a woman screaming in the background. This haunting sound was far from accidental. It was part of a much larger wave that had been developing in Memphis already in the late 80s, when an artist named DJ Spanish Spanish Fly was dominating the Memphis underground with his slowed down beats, eerie samples, and gangster-themed lyrics that he brought to the local club scene. He not only pioneered the sound, but also helped spark an iconic Memphis dance called gangster walking or the G-Walk, which was born when DJ Spanish Fly was behind the turntables and the previously mentioned Govan family gang members brought their own move, the Govan walk, to the dance floor. Spanish Fly's sound would also end up inspiring many other up-and-coming DJs and producers, one of these being DJ Squeaky, who started making the sound even more dark and hard-hitting with his innovative use of drum machines.
Yeah. Now, when you speak of DJ Squeaky, man, for those who don't really know who he is, could you explain who the legendary DJ Squeaky is?
Squeaky is the first producer I ever heard to make them hard beats with the hi-hats going in on. And another.
Yeah.
So everybody really came up off Squeaky's sound. Squeaky was the first one that had that gangster sound with that bass in it, that snare. Everybody else was doing like some them type of hi-hats, 1/8.
Yeah.
Squeaky had the 116, the 132, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Amongst the next generation of rappers and producers came DJ Paul and Juicy J, who both DJ'd at local clubs and sold their own mixtapes. Paul also rapping with his brother Lord Infamous under the group name Serial Killers. Paul and Juicy would eventually come together at the beginning of the 90s, creating a rapper-producer duo who were heavily inspired by the new Memphis sound they were hearing, even to the point they often went to sampling the songs of artists who were hot at the time, which caused some of these artists like DJ Zerk to later claim that Paul and Juicy had basically stolen their sound.
But we thought at the time we the only ones that could do the sound. We didn't know that we was gonna influence other people, you know, so we looking like, man, who is this with this our sound? You know, cause people would sample us. You know, it's like one DJ in Memphis, I didn't even know, you know what I'm saying? He was trying to make it come up. And somebody pulled up right beside me and said, "Hey man, you hear your vocals on such and such stuff, you know, on somebody else's stuff, you know." When
no, you don't want to say the name, but I'm gonna say it. 3-6. So they kind of ran off with the sound. Did you ever confront them or about this or?
Yeah. We don't confront them. But tell you the truth, I done had to chase Paul and Juicy J a couple of times. You know, I really have. And they was right here, and they would tell you, yeah, I ran from them. You know what I'm saying? Because I was mad. You know what I'm saying? It's because, like I say, I come from a hip hop era, and like I say, people thought that Paul was a part of us, so it was building him a little bit momentum, you know what I'm saying? Because he would sample me on this song. I'm like, I don't even know who the little kid is, you know what I'm saying?
However, Paul and Juicy would also in many ways evolve the existing sound with their love for horror movies, fresh sample choices, and undeniably catchy hooks, while the artists they would sign under them, like Paul's brother Lord Infamous, Gangsta Boo, Crunchy Black, Coops Decay, and numerous others, who would make music so undeniable that even people outside Memphis would take notice. Together they formed a supergroup known as 3-6 Mafia, who would in 1995 release their debut studio album, Mystic Styles, which first brought the Memphis sound to a larger nationwide audience, with music critics later recognizing it as a game-changing project and the beginning of the darker side of hip-hop. But there were also numerous other names that would help make the 90s Memphis rap scene a phenomenon that's still influencing the modern sound today. DJ Sound and his rap group The Fraser Clique, which also included a young kid called Lil Yo, better now known as none other than Yo Gotti.
When I was these young sads, man, I was over here running wild, man, thinking of a plan to come up, you feel? And then when it all started at Ridgecrest, Shady Vista, baby. Recorded my first song right down there in DJ Sound House. Mike in the closet, board. I don't think they had mixed boards back then. I don't know what we were recording on. DJ Sound by him now.
Who would rap about hearing the devil telling him to kill and calling himself a cop killer possessed by demons despite barely being a teenager at the time. Yo Gotti would also continue to evolve his career during this time, changing to a much more mainstream friendly style, with his early hits like Shorty in 2006 landing him a record deal with an Atlanta-based label that also included best-selling artists like Lil Jon and the Yin Yang Twins. Coming into the 2010s, a new generation of gangs would again begin to form in Memphis, this time being made up of members who were increasingly young and prone to violence. And coming into the 2010s, right as Memphis was starting to make another come up in the rap game, with a record number of artists breaking through to the mainstream, the violence would begin to shoot back up too, as the gangs associated with these rappers would soon become embroiled in a war that would eventually also end up taking the life of the city's biggest star. During the 2000s and 2010s, the gangs of Memphis would increasingly splinter into numerous small neighborhood cliques, or what the police call hybrid gangs, made up of members that rep many different traditional gangs like the Bloods, Crips, GDs, and Vice Lords, and some would become so popular or infamous that they attracted youths far beyond the active core members. And as people would later reminisce on social media, if you grew up in Memphis in the late 2000s and early 2010s, there's a chance that you repped one of these gangs, such as the Trulla Mafia, Goon Squad Mafia, Fast Cash Boys, Fam Mob, King Gate Mafia, or Young Mob. These gangs came from roughly two different parts of the city, North Memphis and South Memphis. In North Memphis, the most infamous gang was likely the Fam Mob, which according to Memphis police, was started all the way back in 2000 and was still active in areas like Frayser, North Haven, Raleigh, and Millington, although their main headquarters were at two low-income housing projects in Frayser, the Ridgecrest Apartments, which they called Afghanistan, and the Greenbrier Apartments, which was named Iraq. According to the lore told by the police, Fam Mob was started by a group of 8 youngsters who were kicked out of the Gangster Disciples because they were acting so wild they were bringing heat to the entire gang. And the name Fam, according to the cops, is actually an acronym that stands for F Almighty, with Almighty being a reference to the Vice Lords, who were also known as the Almighty Vice Lord Nation, as Vice Lords were also very active in North Memphis, and Fam Mob were clearly not fans. This is why the gang would also spell the name FVM, meaning that the A is inverted to disrespect the Vice Lords. Fam Mob would grow up to be 150 members strong by the mid-2010s, and they'd often end up in the local news for committing crimes from assaults and robberies to drug and gun sales and even murders. And the city would eventually set up safety zones at the Ridgecrest and Greenbrier projects that banned members of Fam Mob from associating with each other in public. But during the early 2010s, the members of Fam Mob would also start a music group known as the FMG, with at least one meaning for this moniker being the Finesse Music Group. This crew included rappers like Bezel, Sauce, and Birdo. The Ridgecrest Apartments, where the Fam Mob had their so-called headquarters, according to the Memphis police, are the very same projects where Yo Gotti originally hailed from.
This considered the Bay Area. We just left the north, now we're in the Bay. This Ridgecrest, that's where your boy started out at, right here on these same streets.
While Yo Gotti would also rep another area in North Memphis around Garland Street and had even been associated with Fam Mob's enemies, the Vice Lords, in some rumors, as he would rap on the 2017 song One on One with YFN Lucci and Meek Mill. He would seemingly become somewhat affiliated with the Fam Mob during the 2010s, and particularly the FMG crew, who were often repping Gotti's CMG label on social media, with some FMG members also rocking CMG chains, and guys like FMG Sauce, aka Sauce the Boss, even seemingly being part of Yo Gotti's entourage at times. Fam Mob were also affiliated with other gangs from North Memphis, such as Fast Cash, aka the Fast Cash Boys or FCB, as well as Stack Squad, aka Stack Squad Money Gang or SSMG, a crew who were seemingly so close with each other that the Memphis police considered them one gang, which according to them had been founded around 2011. Many of the members seemingly hailed from the area around the Raleigh Egypt High School in Raleigh, and according to Memphis police, Fast Cash was also another so-called hybrid gang with members from traditional gangs coming together, and their name too would be associated with numerous serious crimes in the local newspapers. But Fast Cash were also very popular through their music, with their group that simply went by the name Fast Cash Boys, originally including the members C Money, C Jizzle, TP Stacks, and Money, having real underground hit songs going all the way back to the early 2010s, while the Stack Squad would also drop music, particularly a rapper called Ace Boogie who had a considerable local following. Like FMG and Fam Mob, Fast Cash Boys have for a long time seemingly been associated with the Yo Gotti CMG. Meanwhile, in South Memphis, the most infamous gang was allegedly the Young Mob, aka Young Mob Military or YMM, which was founded in the mid to late 2000s and hailed particularly from the Walker homes and the surrounding neighborhoods like Westwood. Like Fam Mob, Young Mob's name would begin to be mentioned in the local news in the early 2010s in relation to numerous serious crimes, the most tragic being the murder of a 7-year-old girl in 2015. But like Fam Mob and Fast Cash, Young Mob has also produced numerous rappers, the first one to receive significant fame being OG Boo Dirty, who would rep Young Mob in music already in the late 2000s and begun receiving national attention with his music in the very early 2010s, getting signed with Gucci Mane's 1017 Brig Squad label, the reasons for that perhaps being Gucci and Boo Dirty's shared hatred for Yo Gotti, but more about that later. Boo Dirty also had a brother called Stupid Duke, or Spooky Duke, these two allegedly being among the founding members of Young Mob, including also CEO or BEO Lil Kenny, and Kenny would begin to rap a few years later than Boo Dirty, while Stupid Duke would only begin to rap a few years ago after serving a 9-year sentence. Other notable Young Mob members included Big Motor, whose 2015 music video for the song Live with Kevin Gates has almost 2 million views, Kenny Money, who is also signed to Young Dolph's PRE label, and Moneybag Yo, who is originally from the Walker homes and was allegedly part of the Young Mob before having a falling out with his gang, but more about that also later. Like Fam Mob in the north, Young Mob also had a few gangs in South Memphis that they were close with, such as the King Gate Mafia, particularly Goon Squad Mafia. King Gate Mafia, aka KGM, hailed from the former King Gate apartments located in the Whitehaven area, which is better known by the locals as Blackhaven. These projects are now partly demolished and known as the New Horizon Apartments. KGM also had some rappers like Ray Gutter, who dropped several songs and music videos with tens of thousands of views in the early 2010s. Goon Squad Mafia, on the other hand, hailed particularly from the Foot Homes and Clearborn Homes public housing projects, although according to Redditors, the gang was spread all over the place, likely partly due to both Foot and Clearborn Homes going through significant redevelopments during the 2010s, which forced families to move to other areas. GSM would also be active in the rap game in the early 2010s, but their most known rapper is likely none other than Key Glock, who would later sign to Young Dolph's PRE just like Kenny Money, and the two even have songs together going all the way back to the mid-2010s. There was also another gang hailing from the Foot Homes, the Trulla Mafia, although this gang would too seemingly have presence all over South Memphis, including areas like Orange Mound, where they could be seen hanging out in their YouTube vlogs, which is close to areas like the Castilla Heights where Young Dolph hails from. Their alleged leader and the most known rapper was called J Money Trulla, who would begin receiving some notable underground fame in the mid-2010s, after he would for some reason become heavily affiliated with none other than Chicago's Chief Keef. Their friendship becoming so close to the point that J Money would begin to call his gang Glow Gang Trulla or Glula Gang in honor of Chief Keef's Glow Gang. J Money was a very respected member and he would collab with numerous artists from different hoods, but Trulla Mafia was seemingly particularly close with Young Mob and their affiliates, and J Money would make songs with the Young Mob rappers like BEO, Lil Kenny, Big Motor, and even Moneybagg Yo, while also having made a song and music video with Young Dolph that was for some reason never released. Unfortunately though, like things usually go, all these gangs were not cool with each other, as there was a major divide between North and South Memphis at the time, with particularly Fam Mob and their affiliates, and Young Mob and their affiliates going at each other hard, as can be seen from numerous diss songs and other videos that are still up on YouTube. Most notably from Young Mob's side, the dissing came from OG Boo Dirty, who would release several dedicated diss songs towards both Yo Gotti and Fam Mob in the summer of 2010. One of these songs titled simply F Yo Gotti, where he calls Yo Gotti Gotti, while another one would be a remix to Rick Ross's hit song BMF, which Yo Gotti also remixed with the name BMF Memphis, where he shouted out numerous Memphis street legends like Craig Petties and G-Train, while Boo Dirty would focus on dissing Gotti in his remix and insinuating that an incident had taken place at a club where Young Mob had allegedly tried to approach Yo Gotti and his entourage, but the Memphis police were present. Unfortunately, as these lyrics hint, the beef wouldn't just stay online and on tracks, and on the 29th of November 2010, an altercation between Young Mob and Yo Gotti and his entourage, which likely included Fam Mob members, would take place at the former Level 2 nightclub in East Memphis. Allegedly, a verbal altercation would first start between Boo Dirty and Yo Gotti. After a third person tried to intervene, the fight would get physical. This led to guns being drawn, and 6 people would end up getting shot during the chaos that ensued. One of the people shot was Boo Dirty himself, who would get hit in the buttocks, but thankfully, none of the injuries ended up life-threatening. A few weeks later, the news would report that Yo Gotti was wanted by the Memphis police in relation to the shooting incident. The following day, it was reported that 11 people were charged with an aggravated riot, which included Yo Gotti, real name Mario Mims, Boo Dirty, real name Lance Taylor, as well as BEO Lil Kenny, real name Kenneth Mason, who was only 19 at the time. The news would also report that this was by no means the only charges that Boo Dirty was facing, as he already had 2 other attempted murder charges from previous shootings that had taken place only a few months earlier. One of these took place at another club, and the other was a drive-by shooting, while he had also allegedly targeted the same victims with an aggravated arson. Then in January 2011, police would also arrest and charge Stupid Duke, real name Brian Lackland, who had allegedly also participated in the club incident against Yo Gotti. The altercation would become the first publicized incident between these two sides, but in the grand scheme of things, this was only the very beginning, and nobody could have seen at the time that this war would end up going on for well over a decade, and spilling over to include many of the most popular rappers to ever come out of the city of Memphis. While Yo Gotti, OG Boo Dirty, and their associated crews were deep in the North versus South Memphis war, a new rapper from Memphis was plotting his come-up. This was of course none other than Young Dolph, who had released his first mixtape Paper Route Campaign in 2008. Dolph hailed from the Castilla Heights neighborhood in South Memphis, an area that's largely its own island due to an industrial zone, vacant land, and train tracks surrounding it from all directions. Not surprisingly then, the kids from this area would seemingly rep Castilla above all else, with one gang from this area being called the Castilla Murder Mob, or CMM, which has alleged members who were affiliated with Dolph, such as the rapper Snoop Bands, who's part of the PRE label's current roster. Dolph himself, though, was seemingly never an active gangbanger, but rather a hustler who treated the rap game with the same attitude as the dope game. Starting by pushing out mixtape after mixtape in the early 2010s, such as Welcome to Dolph World in 2010, High Class Street Music 1 and 2 in 2011, and A Time to Kill and Blue Magic in 2012. Behind Dolph's music operation, and alleged dope operation before that, was seemingly his business partner Daddy-O, real name Jeromel Moore, who came to know Dolph in the neighborhood from a young age, first providing him with the so-called package, and later allegedly helping him to finance his independent label, the Paper Route Empire.
I met Dolph shooting basketball when he was about 10 years old. It was in the hood, we was hooping. I think he used to look up to me, man, because I used to have that jumper and that crossover, you feel me? I had what he wanted, that package.
Because Dolph wasn't directly gang affiliated, he had seemingly no problems working with rappers from all over Memphis, and in his early interviews, he would often shout out Yo Gotti, despite infamous South Memphis gangs like Young Mob already having a beef with Gotti that had turned violent.
You know what I'm saying? Salute to all the big dogs, you feel me? Salute to Gotti, salute to my boy Juicy J, you feel me? We tripping, man, you know what I'm saying?
Gotti 3-6 now, know what I'm saying? They let the world know what North Memphis is about, know what I'm saying?
In 2012, Yo Gotti would even bring Young Dolph on stage during a show in Memphis to showcase the new talent coming out of his city. But later that same year, Dolph would also collab on a song titled We Gone, together with OG Boo Dirty and Gucci Mane, who were both beefing with Gotti heavily at the time. The 2010 club shooting incident had at this point largely passed without major repercussions to either side, as the aggravated riot charges were dropped against Gotti, Boo Dirty, and several others due to lack of witnesses, while Boo Dirty had also beaten his separate attempted murder charge. And meanwhile, the two sides had continued holding deep grudges against each other. Gucci Mane and Yo Gotti, on the other hand, had fallen out after they both decided to drop their mixtapes on the 17th of October 2012, with Gucci obviously having a special connection to the 10/17 date, which would make him lash out against Yo Gotti.
All my labels drop their mixtape on 10/17. Why would you drop it if you ain't on 10/17? And when I call you as my partner to ask you why you did, you say, oh, I didn't know you were dropping the mixtape. Now the whole world know I'm dropping this mixtape, I'm promoting this mixtape. Both me and you on the top of World Star, you with a freestyle and me with a video, but you say you're unaware that this mixtape gonna come, and I got a battle that says come out 10/17. So it just made me lose all respect for him instantly.
The song We Gone, where Dolph featured, was a simple, getting high anthem, but it was part of OG Boo Dirty's mixtape, The Definition of a G, that he dropped in December 2012 after signing with Gucci's 10/17 Brick Squad label. And another song on this mixtape was Boo Dirty's collab with Gucci and Rocco, titled Rap N-Words, which was a dedicated diss track towards Yo Gotti, where the trio rapped how they can't stand these rap dudes because they're so fake. And the collaboration between Gucci Mane and Young Dolph would continue in March 2013, when they would release a full mixtape together titled East Atlanta Memphis, which also included another feature with OG Boo Dirty on the track Get It Back. Clearly, while Dolph wasn't yet beefing with Yo Gotti directly, he had silently chosen his side in the beef, which had appeared to be the side of South Memphis and Young Mob. Meanwhile, things in the streets would keep developing. During the summer of 2012, while Boo Dirty kept beefing with Yo Gotti on the music side, his brother Stupid Duke, aka Brian Lackland, who had seemingly also avoided charges in the Club Riot case, would get his face blasted on the local news, as he was now a fugitive wanted by the Memphis police on very serious charges, including aggravated robbery and attempted first-degree murder. These charges stemmed from an incident where Duke and some other guys had allegedly set up a guy to get robbed by using Duke's girlfriend to lure the victim to Young Mob's territory. After the robbery, however, the victim would realize that he was in possession of Duke's phone, which would help the police go after him. But Duke, on the other hand, was in possession of the victim's phone, which also had the victim's address in it, and before the police could get after Duke, he tried to go after the robbery victim by going to his house guns blazing, leading to the attempted murder charges. Duke was eventually found guilty of all of these charges, leading him to be locked up for the next 9 years. But meanwhile, the street beef between North and South Memphis would keep escalating. In March 2013, Young Mob and Trulla Mafia members were seen together at a South Memphis club, where according to online rumors, they would run into some Fast Cash members, including the rapper Fast Cash C Money, who would allegedly get robbed by the leader of Trulla Mafia, the rapper J Money. Later that same night, Young Mob and Trulla members would stop at a gas station near the club, where the Fast Cash members would allegedly slide back to get their revenge, ending up shooting a 20-year-old Young Mob member named Young Key, real name Keyshawn White, who would die in his girlfriend's arms at the scene. These events would pull the Fast Cash boys into a direct conflict with the Young Mob and Trulla Mafia, and in the following weeks, the police would arrest and charge a 19-year-old Calvin McMickens, better known as Fast Cash Jizzle, and a 17-year-old Courtney Smith, aka Fast Cash C Money, for the murder of Young Key. But that's not where this case would end, because the following summer, when the case was about to go to trial, Jizzle, who was out on bond, and another Fast Cash member called Chopper Suge, real name Elvin Dorsey, would attempt to get rid of several witnesses in the case by ambushing them at their homes, with these attempts fortunately failing, despite the authorities finding 43 spent rounds at the scene. But the most explosive part about this incident was that according to Reddit rumors, it in fact targeted the home of none other than J Money and his family, with a screenshot of an affidavit later being posted to Reddit that showed J Money telling the police that the shooters were targeting him because he planned on testifying in the murder trial against the Fast Cash members who had allegedly killed Young Key. It seems that J Money never got on the stand though, and the Fast Cash members would end up beating the charges, as they would years later tell in their interview with DGB Media.
So what would you say is one of the biggest life lessons you guys learned?
Man, we went through it together.
Really?
Yeah, they probably were the toughest. Yeah. That was the toughest situation we probably been through.
Had a little charge. We had a little murder charge.
That's not a little charge. That's a major charge.
Yeah, they right there. Like waking up not knowing if you finna come home or not. You know what I'm saying? You telling your folks you finna be home this week. This next court day they sit y'all. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be strong for this shit.
Hey,
like, this shit went on for a couple years type shit.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying?
We overcame it though.
We overcame it. Sure.
Misunderstand.
Yep.
Both of you guys were charged?
Yeah, we both were charged.
Jeez.
But while the war in the streets kept escalating, something would also begin to go wrong in the relationship between young Dolph and Yo Gotti, because in October 2013, young Dolph would release the song Scared of Me, where he appeared to be taking direct shots at someone whose name he was keeping a secret, but whose baby mother he had apparently been intimate with. Based on what young Dolph would later reveal about his escapades with the mother of Gotti's child, this was seemingly the first of many shots that young Dolph would take at Yo Gotti. Still in July 2014 though, Dolph would publicly downplay any rumors that there was beef, rapping in the song What's Popping, how everyone keeps asking him what's going on between him and Gotti, but he just wants to talk about the new Porsche he's driving. However, only a month later, he would address the issue head-on during his interview with the legendary radio show host Sway, saying that the true source of tension came from him refusing a record deal with Yo Gotti's CMG label.
Like, say Gotti wanted me to do the, like, man, come on, bro, let's do CMG paper route. That's cool. I'm knocking for that. If I was him, I would have came to me like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But only thing was going to happen behind it was people like, oh, he popped off because of Gotti. You feel what I'm saying? Which I can't do that because I got too much of my own time and money invested in it. You feel what I'm saying? So, like I said, like...
And I know Gotti respect that because he did the same thing.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
The simmering tension finally exploded into violence at the start of 2015, though its origins ran far deeper than most people realized. And well before the first act of violence, the quiet war between Yo Gotti's CMG and young Dolph's paper route empire had already begun rippling through Memphis studios and neighborhoods. As the conflict unfolded, attempts to trace who threw the first punch or spilled the first drop of blood almost always pointed back to Yo Gotti's camp. Yet, digging deeper, evidence suggested that the first real shots were fired a full year before Dolph ever became a target, and it all came to a head on February the 28th, 2015, during Charlotte's CIAA Weekend Takeover, a star-studded day party featuring T.I., Young Jeezy, and Yo Gotti at Club Label. Among the crowd on stage that night were Yo Gotti and members of CMG, alongside young Dolph and his Paper Route Empire team. Former Young Jeezy affiliate Clem would look back on that night, sharing his first-hand account on a Humble Souls YouTube channel.
And the year we was there, that was like in the midst of Dolph just coming out and beefing with Gotti. Cause I remember Dolph and them used to wear the orange PRE ski mask. You got CMG, you got us, you got Tip, and then you got the PRE.
Clem recalled seeing movement from Dolph's entourage, and moments later, gunfire erupted, hitting Gotti's right-hand man and label vice president Howard Keon Wright.
So we in the club just chilling, but we know me and my people watch everything, and we know these got beef, so we just knowing something gonna go down. So next thing you know, we just watching, you just see these orange ski masks just creeping through VIP. Just creeping through VIP. And then they got up to where Gotti and them was, and all we know, we just heard gunshots. And I think they had shot Gotti's brother, Keon.
For both CMG and PRE, the Charlotte shooting marked the moment that everything changed, setting the stage for years of tension, retaliation, and loss that would ripple across Memphis. And according to this account, it was actually Dolph's side that fired that first shot, sparking a long and dangerous cycle of revenge. However, once the violence reached the public, the story began to take shape in a very different way, with Dolph being seen as the hero and Yo Gotti cast as the villain. And the next time the two would see Howard Wright in the news, he would be listed as a suspect instead of a victim. From there, the beef continued to get deeply personal, as Dolph doubled down on the track, pooping on the industry, seemingly rapping once again about the mother of Gotti's child, who was apparently still in contact with Dolph. And while Gotti had so far been silent about his beef, his November 2015 CM8 mixtape included some subliminals, like on the song Legendary, where Gotti seemed to address the fact that Dolph kept bringing up the mother of his child, calling it a sucker move. The song would also include a line of Gotti issuing a royal Memphis decree, rapping, "Never disrespect the king, you know you gotta see me about it." This was a challenge that Dolph simply could not ignore, and in February 2016, he made his boldest power play yet, announcing a new album that he would be calling The King of Memphis. The title itself was a direct provocation, as Yo Gotti had been calling himself the King of Memphis since the 2000s, back when he was battling it out with 3-6 Mafia, who had their own claim to the throne from even earlier. And to pour gasoline on the fire, Dolph set the release date for February the 19th, the exact same day that Yo Gotti was dropping his own album, The Art of Hustle. But while Dolph and Gotti traded words on tracks, their camps were already mobilizing in the streets, and just a week later, the conflict erupted into a hail of gunfire. In late February 2016, Dolph was in Charlotte, North Carolina for the CIAA tournament, a major annual event known for its basketball games, concerts, and celebrity appearances. And following Dolph's performance at the Bubble Champagne Lounge on Saturday night, when members of his entourage arrived at the Hyatt Place Hotel in downtown Charlotte, gunmen from a vehicle opened fire on them, letting off over 40 shots into 2 cars at the hotel lobby. Miraculously, no one was injured, and in a quick turn of events, police would have 3 suspects in custody within just 2 days.
Be in court today. Howard Wright, Kevin Thompson, and Derek Bolton are charged with shooting into an occupied dwelling and discharging a firearm in city limits. Charlotte-Mecklenburg police say officers in the area heard the gunshots early Sunday morning and stopped a car leaving the scene. They say Wright ran from the car and was caught carrying an AK-47 and a handgun.
One of these suspects happened to be Howard Wright, the road manager and vice president of Yo Gotti's music label CMG. But while Wright ultimately pled guilty and was sentenced to over a decade in prison, Yo Gotti himself was never officially linked to the shooting. But this was just the beginning, and only days later on March the 2nd, Yo Gotti's artist Black Youngster, a Memphis native who seemed to act as both a rapper and Gotti's #1 shooter in his hometown, would film himself leading an armed entourage through South Memphis, publicly declaring that he was looking for young Dolph.
Right now, cuz. Right now, cuz. What Dolph at, cuz? Where he at, cuz? Where he at? Where he at right now? Where he at? 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 See the lamb in the back? You see me? Dolph at, cuz. Where you at, Dolph? Where you at? Where you at? We in Castaigne right now. We just left the store. Where you at right now, Dolph? Where you at right now? Book, Dolph. Where you at? Where you at? Where you? I love Castaigne, but I don't Dolph. Dead. We don't Dolph.
Dolph would respond soon after via social media, where he appeared to be in high spirits and completely unbothered.
Hey, if I was these, I'd be mad at me too. You know what I mean? Yeah, all that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I still ain't got no tags. Yeah, you know what I mean? I'd be mad at me too, bro. You feel me? I'd be mad too, bro. Trap.
But Yo Gotti continued to downplay the beef. Dolph responded directly on the remix of Trouble's track Ready, calling Black Youngster Fed for recording his trip to Dolph's hood, and mentioned staying in a hotel with the mother of Gotti's kids and doing the unthinkable day after day for a month straight, even ending the bar with the ad-lib facts, just to drive home that this unbelievable freak-off marathon had indeed taken place. Black Youngster wasted no time either, and he responded the very same day with a track called Shake Something, where he mentioned Dolph by name, asking if he wanted to play, before rapping a bar that would later seem prophetic as he listed an arsenal of weapons before saying how he had 100 rounds on the Draco. Youngster would also ask how Dolph was the king of Memphis when he was originally from Chicago, before saying that he better lay low because Youngster's killers move on his command. But Dolph didn't lay low, as he would respond just one day later, accusing Yo Gotti in a video of trying to have legal charges filed against him, clowning Black Youngster and pointing towards Gotti's long history of hating.
Hey, I've been spraying your for years, the whole city know that. Gotti, you was a I just got back to the city, they say you trying to put charges on me and put the police on me. You send your little to do all your talking. Talk for yourself. That big head Down syndrome looking hate on everybody from the city that gets some real money. You start out hating on 3-6, they were having Oscars and you had to hate because you were broke. That's the only way you can get attention, boy. You were broke, boy, now you hating on Dolph. You were...
Towards the end of March 2016, Dolph was also captured on video telling a live concert audience about his favorite topic, sleeping with Yo Gotti's baby mother.
Check this out. Y'all know why this man. Little dude, the little one, the little dude, little brother, little pee-wee, I don't even know this. But his boss know. That man. He said, man, come baby mama, that's all that. Hey, drop it. Oh, God, get his baby mama out my...
A surprising but crucial piece in this brewing beef between Dolph and Gotti would end up being none other than J Money from the Trulla Mafia, who so far had been close with both sides, as he had posted himself meeting Dolph numerous times throughout 2015, as well as other people associated with Paper Route Empire, and he'd even repped PRE solo by wearing their hoodie. But he had also been meeting with Yo Gotti too, even having video calls with him, as well as hanging out with Yo Gotti's shooter Black Youngster. However, it seems that in April 2016, J Money would choose his side, as he would post several pictures on his Instagram of him meeting with Dolph and his business partner Daddio, as well as other PRE members during a listening party for the PRE mixtape Bosses and Shooters, captioning one photo by saying that he looks at Dolph and Daddio as brothers and he will ride with them, right or wrong. A few days later, he would post another photo, this time writing that he didn't give an F about what people thought about him hanging out with Dolph and said that it was all love between them. In the coming months, J Money would keep posting himself together with Dolph, showing that they were even making music together. Moreover, based on how much he was also seemingly spending time with Daddio, it seemed that either Daddio had begun to manage him too, or he was perhaps about to even sign with Paper Route Empire, and in July, he would in fact call both Dolph and Daddio his CEOs, while also making music with other PRE artists like Jay Fizzle. Then in early August, J Money would come out with a big announcement, saying that he was joining Dolph for his royalty tour that lasted the entire month, and soon he would indeed post photos from the tour, showing himself posing next to the tour bus during their third stop in San Diego. However, for some reason, J Money would return back to Memphis before the tour was over, and in the early morning hours of August the 20th, he would be at the Kittens Cabaret strip club in South Memphis, Memphis. Around 4 a.m., as J Money was seemingly hanging out in the club's parking lot, a shooting would take place. And when the police arrived at the scene soon after, they would find an unresponsive J Money, real name Jerome White, with a fatal gunshot wound, which would end his life seemingly as he was just about to take his rap career to the next level with Dolph and Daddy-O. His killer was identified as 37-year-old Freddie Yarborough, who was captured a few months later, and he would eventually plead guilty to the murder, which the prosecutors described as gang-related. J Money had been highly respected in Memphis, and he was considered someone who received love in the city no matter where he went. Although in the months leading up to his death, he had seemingly chosen his side in the war between Dolph and Yo Gotti. But in the years following J Money's death, his absence in the streets would cause a domino effect with enormous consequences, causing old gangs to splinter into new ones, and eventually causing his gang, the Trulla Mafia, to do a complete 180 with some of his best friends turning on young Dolph and the PRE, with all of this eventually culminating to the boiling point where they would eventually hunt down and assassinate Dolph in broad daylight. To fully understand the events that led to Dolph's murder, we need to have a quick overview of things that would take place in South Memphis, gang underworld in the late 2010s, as J Money's death in 2016 coincided with a period in Memphis when the homicide rate began sharply rising. In the streets, this rise in homicides would coincide with an increasing splintering of gangs to even smaller cliques, creating a highly complex web of new alliances and rivalries. Without the leadership of J Money, his Trulla Mafia would break down, with some of the newer generation keeping affiliations with the original Trulla Mafia, but also starting some new cliques, one of these being called the Ape Gang, while another one became known as Young and Ruthless, aka YNR, as well as Off the Crank, or OTC. Meanwhile, other members would move on to start a completely new gang called Double R, which stands for Rich and Ruthless. Perhaps the best known Double R member would be the rapper Big Scar, real name Alexander Woods, who still repped Trulla at the end of 2016, but already by mid-2017, he had seemingly begun repping the Double R. Things would then take a deadly turn in the summer of 2018, when Double R member BG, aka Baby Grape, real name Malik Holland, was allegedly murdered by 3 Trulla members, C-Mode, Lil Zay, and Go Crazy, real name Carlos Lacey, who would end up getting charged with the murder. Lil Zay would meet an even worse fate, as he was gunned down not long after in a case where his killer, a man named Daryl Thurman, tried to first claim self-defense and then argued that he had seen visions of Zay attacking him before shooting him in the back. C-Mode, on the other hand, would return home from jail after a separate case and start dissing Double R via music, even naming himself as the main op. But his run as a rapper would be short-lived, as he would eventually be charged with 7 counts of attempted murder after shooting up a house not once but twice within just a few days apart, which the police considered related to the beef between Trulla and Double R and the murder of BG, where C-Mode had been named as a person of interest. People on both sides of this new rivalry would keep taking heavy losses, with Double R losing one of their most loved members, called 2-3, real name Kalitri Boone, in September 2018, after a fight between 2 groups would escalate into a shooting that would leave 2-3 and 2 others dead at the Cane Creek apartments in South Memphis. A few years later, in May 2020, J Money's little brother, D Money, real name Derek Blackburn, who had himself started rapping in an attempt to continue his brother's legacy, would also be shot dead while he was driving in his car in South Memphis. Later that year, Double R rapper CEO Jizzle would rap in his song Rich and Ruthless that if you diss 2-3 then you're going to die, before asking the listener if they've heard what happened to the last guy and saying that he got left on Trigg Street. This was a direct diss aimed towards D Money, who was not only killed on Trigg Avenue but had also indeed dissed 2-3 just a few months before he was killed. In fact, a few days after dissing 2-3, D Money would post a text message on Facebook where someone would threaten him and let him know that they knew what car he was driving and that they were going to leave him dead just like his brother. D Money's killer would never be caught, but later on, rumors would spread that he was allegedly killed by a rapper known as Big Unk, formerly known as Uncle Danny CMG, with the CMG in this case referring to C Money Gang in honor of his friend who had passed away in 2015, not the CMG record label of Yo Gotti. But while Big Unk, real name Daniel Banks, seemingly repped CMG above all else, he was also close with Double R, including the Double R rapper Big Scar, and had seemingly also been very close with BG, who Trulla Mafias had allegedly killed, giving him a possible motive to kill D Money. These rumors were problematic, as Big Unk had been signed to Young Dolph's PRE label in 2021, with J Money and D Money's mother voicing on Facebook her disappointment that Dolph, who had seemingly been so close with J Money before his death, would sign her brother's alleged killer to his label, even directly mentioning Big Unk's name. While Trulla members would swear on social media that people were going to die for D Money, Dolph had also signed another rapper called Big Moochie Grape, who repped DTH, or Dusttown Hogs, which is a known Grape Street Crip set with LA origins. But Moochie was also very close with Double R, and would commonly make music with Big Scar and Big Unk, which would likely further anger Trulla members who must have felt that Dolph had purposely switched on them with their enemies. There would also be other shakeups amongst the South Memphis gangs that would end up playing a crucial role in the events that were about to unfold. Sometime in the latter part of the 2010s, a new clique would form who called themselves the Knock Bat Gang, or KSBG. Like most of the new cliques, this one too would have members from all over the city, but interestingly, one of their main turfs would be the New Horizon Apartments project, which had formerly been home to the Kinggate Mafia. But unlike the Kinggate Mafia, who had been allies of Young Mob, the KSBG would start to have beef with Young Mob, or if the feds are to be believed, they would become Young Mob's principal rival. According to Reddit rumors, one factor causing this rivalry would go all the way back to 2015, when a Young Mob member called Lil Migo, real name Corey Shaw, had allegedly been robbing other Young Mob members, and as revenge, Young Mob decided to kill him, although they had allegedly tried to frame the Fast Cash Boys for the murder by committing it in the gang's territory in Raleigh. This murder would allegedly lead to deep disagreements within Young Mob, and as a result, some of the members, including Lil Migo's brother Baby Migo, would branch off to start the KSBG, who also call themselves the Migo Gang in Corey's honor. The gang includes several well-known rappers such as Musty G, Cheese Dollar, Big Nooski, and most notably Big 30. KSBG would since the beginning be very close with another clique known as Chopper Gang, who are of course best known for the rapper Pooh Shiesty, with Shiesty and Big 30 having been very close with each other since the beginning of their music careers. Chopper Gang and KSBG would also originally be close with Double R, particularly through Big Scar, who's actually Pooh Shiesty's real-life cousin.
Because we smoking fatties out here. Yeah. Double R gang, man. Chopper gang. I ain't even know what's going on, man.
Shiesty and Big Scar would not only make music together, but they would also both get signed to Gucci Mane's 1017 label, although Big Scar would also be close with Young Dolph and PRE. Like Double R, Chopper Gang would also have their own beef with Trulla Mafia, and particularly their affiliated clique YNR, and this beef would in 2019 lead to a shootout that would leave a Chopper Gang member called Rico, real name Derico Houston, dead after he was reportedly dropped off by his friends in front of a hospital. The police would later arrest another Chopper Gang member called Mitch, real name Mitchell Conrad, in relation to the shooting, and he would seemingly tell police all about the incident that had led to Rico's death. Pooh Shiesty, on the other hand, would rap about the incident in his 2019 song Day One, seemingly insinuating that Rico had called him 5 times before the shooting happened, and therefore Shiesty still tries to call him back, unable to accept that his friend is gone. In Reddit rumors, on the other hand, particularly a Trulla and YNR member called BJ Capone has also been associated with the shooting, with one user claiming that the beef between these two crews goes all the way back to their childhood, as Chopper Gang members like Pooh Shiesty grew up in the same circles as Trulla Mafia youths, and Shiesty can be seen in old pictures honoring a fallen member called OG Lump by repping a clique called OLG or OG Lump Gang, while OG Lump was also affiliated with gangs like Young Mob, Goon Squad Mafia, and Trulla Mafia. Even Key Glock can be seen repping the same clique in his old YouTube videos, showing just how connected all these rappers were from their childhoods. Big 30, on the other hand, would end up signing with Moneybagg Yo's Bread Gang Entertainment in 2019, as would another KSBG rapper called Big Nooski, which would cause further static between KSBG and Young Mob, because not only had Moneybagg Yo signed with Young Mob's old enemy Yo Gotti in 2016, but in 2019 Moneybagg Yo would do a song with the Fast Cash rapper Jizzle, who had allegedly killed the Young Mob member Young Key back in 2013. For Young Mob, this was unforgivable, and in 2020 the Young Mob founder Stupid Duke would give an interview from prison where he was still serving his long sentence for the case he caught back in 2012, saying that this was something that he could never forgive, and it would forever be beef with Moneybagg Yo from now on.
So what's really going on with you and Moneybagg?
Moneybagg crossed the line, you know, it's forever, he smoked for life. You know, he did a song with a dude, killed one of the homeboys. He got his face on the TV cover, all of them got his name tattooed on those. He just did some foul stuff that you can't never come back from. So, you know, it's smoke. It used to be Young Mom, and he did a song with a dude to kill your mom. So, you know, it's forever. This something ain't gonna never stop. This is Lewis.
So was he Young Ma from the beginning?
Yeah, he was Young Mom from the beginning. He got it tatted on him. Yeah, he Young Mom. He's from the neighborhood originally.
In the same interview, Duke would say that there would be possible collaboration between him and PRE once he would be released from prison, showing that Dolph was still close to Young Mob. This was also reflected in the fact that in 2019, Young Dolph would sign the Young Mob rapper Kenny Money, who had a childhood connection to Key Glock, the two having made music together all the way back in 2015. All of these new affiliations and rivalries would play in the background, while the beef between Yo Gotti and Young Dolph would keep escalating, and either by choice or by accident, Young Dolph too would become entrenched in them, and Trulla Mafia's beef with Double R and their growing alienation by Dolph and PRE would seemingly drive them towards Yo Gotti's CMG, while Double R would become closer with PRE through rappers like Big Unk and Big Scar. Young Mob would seemingly since the beginning side with PRE, with artists with deep ties to the gang like Kenny Money even signing to the label, while their main rival KSBG, which had several rappers with close ties to Moneybagg Yo's Bread Gang Entertainment, aka BGE, would seem to naturally side with CMG given Moneybagg Yo's close ties to Yo Gotti. The same same also applied to Pooh Shiesty's Chopper Gang, aka CGE, who remained very closely tied in with KSBG through Shiesty's long friendship with the KSBG rapper Big 30. But unfortunately, the streets and the music industry would eventually cross paths with the deadliest consequences for young Dolph. By late 2016, the tension between young Dolph and Yo Gotti was undeniable, and it seemed like each month brought another reason for their animosity to grow. On one hand, the conflict was good for business, particularly for Gotti, who was not just using the beef to boost his own publicity, but also hype up his artist Black Youngster, who had become well known as Yo Gotti's shooter through both his music and the other social media antics. Dolph, on the other hand, would seemingly use Gotti's own weapons against him, perhaps knowingly, or maybe this was just another example of history repeating itself, because just like their beef had supposedly begun after young Dolph had refused to sign with Yo Gotti's own beef with the 3-6 Mafia during the late 90s and early 2000s was preceded by 3-6 trying to sign Gotti to their label, which Gotti refused, as DJ Paul would later tell DJ Vlad.
Gotti was almost with us. I still got a contract at home where me and Jason was gonna sign Gotti, but it never went through.
Really? You guys were gonna sign Yo Gotti?
Yeah, I got a contract at home with Gotti's name on it right now.
He never signed it?
No, he didn't sign it.
How come he didn't sign it?
I don't know.
Not enough money at the time, or?
I don't know, to be honest.
And just like Dolph would use his image as a successful independent artist and label owner to diss Gotti, Gotti himself had once used this very same angle to diss 3-6 Mafia.
To all my independents out there, man, do what you do, man. Get your money, go to your homeboy garage, room, whatever, put your out, man. Get you a couple 100,000 units, sell them. You can't sell them, get them away. But what you don't do is wait on these superstar head DJs and PDs. You hear me, man? Them ran so much should be pregnant. You hear me, for real. I'm talking about.
The similarities between Gotti's come up and young Dolph's rise wasn't lost on Crunchy Black, another original member of 3-6 Mafia, who noted how Gotti himself had even made a song in 2000 titled After I F Your B, which was all about dissing his ops by telling him he had taken their girl, just like Dolph would constantly rap about his fling with the mother of Gotti's kid.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
But a long time ago, he had a song called If I Your Baby Mama, I'll Tell You About It. We was kids when he had that song, you know what I'm saying? And to me, that's the same thing Dolph was saying. I your baby mama, and I'm gonna tell you about it. You get what I'm saying?
But by the end of 2016, there was a slight shift from CMG, as Black Youngster began suddenly downplaying the feud, even giving Dolph credit during his XXL magazine interview and saying that he deserved his XXL cover, which at least for the moment suggested the air might be clearing.
What's threatening about this? Like, don't do me like that, man. Like, yeah, you know, I'm just keeping it 100, bro. But I think it's a Memphis thing, because I ain't even see Dolph on there. Dolph should have been on there a long time ago.
That's interesting.
Don Tripp should have been on there.
But Dolph was not sharing the sentiment, and he would make his own opinion very clear on the same platform weeks later, saying that Black Youngster was beneath him and only trying to use Dolph's beef with Gotti to build his career.
He didn't say nothing bad about you. The footage is out, and he said you should have been on that XXL cover. How you feel about that, man?
I don't want to talk about the hood, man.
What about the XXL?
You know what I'm saying? Like, it ain't even, it's all that fake. You know what I'm saying? A little dude don't even know me, so all that fake. He can't conversate about me. He could just let him do whatever he doing. You know what I mean? The thing is, Dolph and Yo Gotti. You know what I mean?
Then in late October, Yo Gotti made a major move by signing the rising South Memphis rapper Moneybagg Yo. Beyond the effects that this signing might have had on the streets, which we discussed in the previous chapter, on the industry side, it allowed Yo Gotti to indirectly pull another major Memphis artist into the beef, and within days, the two dropped a joint mixtape called 2 Federal, where Gotti appeared to address Dolph without naming him directly, admitting that he'd been watching Dolph's interview and saying he didn't like his energy. A few months later, in December, Gotti released his mixtape, CM9 White Friday, that once again delivered thinly veiled shots at Dolph, as Gotti accused Dolph of dividing the city, while Gotti was supposedly trying to unite it. It seems at this point that Dolph had enough of the subliminals and behind-the-scenes power plays, and he would then decide to bring everything out into the open.
Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying, come around me like, bro, you heard such and so, you heard his new mixtape? Oh, you heard this? Like, no, I don't listen to that music. I don't listen to the music. I don't listen to a lot of people's music.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Especially not this sucker.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Man, they play it. So his last 2 mixtapes, he trying to slick this Dolph, trying to throw. It's like you playing. You know what I'm saying? So you want to play? I ain't finna play how you want to play. We gonna play how I want to play. I'm finna get ready to go and expose you and let the facts be out here. Facts on top of facts. And that's why he don't even know how to respond.
In February 2019, Dolph released the explosive track Play With Your a direct diss track aimed squarely at Yo Gotti, where Dolph didn't hold back one bit, as he would call Gotti's raps about his past as a big-time dope dealer made up, before rapping how Gotti had gone from his biggest fan to his biggest hater just because he didn't want to sign with him. And Dolph wouldn't aim the disses just at Gotti, but the entire of CMG, even dissing Gotti's brother and business partner behind the CMG label, Big Juk, by rapping how Dolph is still the same guy who used to front drugs to Juk when they were both pushing dope. There would also be a diss aimed towards someone from Dolph's hood who was on Yo Gotti's team. Most fans would seemingly take this as a diss towards Moneybagg Yo, as they're both from South Memphis, although Dolph is from Castalia and Moneybagg Yo from Walker Homes. But based on Gotti's social media, he does seem to also too have some contacts in Castalia who Dolph could have been referring to. The release of the song was followed by a music video that went the extra mile by casting a Yo Gotti lookalike that seemed to be meticulously modelled on Gotti's head shape and hairline, alongside a lookalike of Yo Gotti's brother Big Juk too. And arguably, there was even a character in the video that looks a lot like Hernandez Govan, who would later be implicated as the alleged mastermind behind Dolph's murder. And speaking of that, the sneak dissing that Gotti had been doing was seemingly not the only reason why Dolph decided to go after him hard, because just one day later, Dolph would release his mixtape Gelato, where on the intro track by the same name, he would suddenly reference that there had been a bounty put on his head, rapping how he had heard that someone had a hit out on him and wishing the shooters good luck. Unfortunately, it would turn out that Dolph's intel was on point, and once again his life was in danger in the very same place it had been a year before, as Dolph would attend another weekend at Charlotte, North Carolina for the annual CIAA basketball tournament, where he would be making another series of performances and appearances. That Sunday evening, as Dolph and his entourage were driving near downtown Charlotte, they were suddenly ambushed as another vehicle pulled up beside them and started spraying bullets. According to police, more than 100 rounds pierced the air that evening, hitting surrounding vehicles and apartments, but miraculously, no one was injured by these 100 shots, with some of the onlookers filming the aftermath and describing the incident like something out of a movie.
This what happened. I'm sitting up here, I seen him pull off right here.
Pull off right here.
Bro, a truck came from right here and pulled up and slammed on brake. And like a movie, bro.
Yeah, and they started shooting and they're backing up. They put the car in the truck with they're backing up. I saw them.
No. You know what's crazy though? Bro, they top of that with a top with it just yes. But it's a bulletproof vest. It's a bulletproof. Bulletproof vehicle.
Nothing bulletproof.
Meanwhile, Dolph's bulletproof Cadillac Escalade that he had spent $600,000 to armor absorbed the barrage of bullets, leaving the rapper completely unharmed. It was clear at this point that while Dolph was talking crazy on his tracks and interviews, essentially taunting his enemies and daring them to try and kill him, he was also moving smart, knowing that someone would eventually at least try to test him for real. However, he was also refusing to let his enemies see any signs of weakness from him, and within a few hours of the attempt on his life, Dolph was already on stage performing the very same diss track that may have caused the attempt in the first place. The same attitude was on full display on his social media, where he would soon post a simple message to his enemies, "You lose," indicating that the shooters had lost to young Dolph after he survived the attempt on his life. But since Dolph had either accidentally or purposefully spelled it incorrectly, it would also give the message another meaning, that his enemies were moving loose out here and it was only a matter of time before the law would get them. Later on, as Dolph would recount the incident on XXL, he would downplay its seriousness to further taunt the people behind it, calling it a minor inconvenience.
They started shooting, they shot. Shooting was over with. I had another party to go to that night. You know what I mean? So.
But it was clear that for Dolph, this had been much more than that, and besides the incident likely giving him the self-assurance that he knew how to move correctly, he also saw the potential that the widely publicized incident provided to further boost his career. And by April 2017, Dolph would go all in with a release of a new album titled Bulletproof, which featured a black Escalade on the cover, just like the one he'd been in the night of the incident. And that was just the beginning, because the project also included a track list that read like a message directed towards those who had just tried to kill him, with the track listing reading 100 shots in Charlotte, but I'm bulletproof, so F 'em, that's how I feel, all of them, I'm so real, I pray for my enemies, I'm everything you want to be, shake my head. The most revealing track on the project was That's How I Feel, featuring Gucci Mane, where Dolph revealed the exact amount the alleged bounty on his head was by rapping, "For 100 shots, I heard you paid 100 stacks, hope you got your receipt, go and get your 100 back." He followed this with lyrics that implied that he was talking about Yo Gotti, once again mentioning the mother of his kid, before recounting the shooting, and ending with a line that seems ominous in hindsight, rapping how he wasn't about to go out like Tupac or Biggie. Shockingly, the trial of young Dolph's alleged killers, more than 5 years later, would reveal that $100,000 was indeed the exact bounty placed on his head. After 2 weeks of silence, following the release of the album, Gotti finally addressed the topic on stage with a response that sounded rather incriminating, as he told fans that you'll never see him do internet beef because Gotti and his crew pull up in person. And this line would start to sound even more incriminating by the following month, as authorities put out warrants for possible suspects, shockingly implicating none other than CMG top shooter himself, Black Youngster, real name Sammy Benson, alongside a man named Frederick Black, and Antavius Gardner, charging them with 6 counts of discharging a weapon into an occupied property and 1 count of felony conspiracy. As Youngster would be spotted by the media on his way to surrender, he protested his innocence, telling that he had done nothing, seen nothing, and heard nothing.
The Memphis-based rapper, who goes by the name Black Youngster, is facing charges connected to a wild gun battle that happened in the middle of Caldwell Street. The dangerous shootout sent dozens of bullets flying into houses and cars, nearly hitting children.
I ain't fired nothing. I don't know nothing. I ain't seen nothing. I ain't do nothing.
Police sources say the shooting involved 2 rappers. Later, a rapper named Young Dolph.
Meanwhile, Youngster's lawyer asserted that even the van used in the shooting had been rented in his client's name, but it had actually been stolen before the incident, while Youngster himself would hit the reporters with a rather odd line, saying how obviously someone was snitching. Just a few days after his arrest, after bailing out, Black Youngster would go on to explain what he had likely meant with that line by releasing the track Birthday, where he blamed Dolph's lyrics for implicating him in the crime. However, according to Dolph, no one had snitched since Youngster had rented the vehicle under his own name.
Hey, I just rented van in my name, right? You know what I'm saying? And we finna go dump on it. We finna jump out 6 deep. 100 shots.
After 2 years of legal maneuvering, it turned out that nobody was in fact snitching, as Youngster's charges were eventually dropped due to lack of evidence, with the DA even adding that Youngster had a rock-solid alibi and there were no witnesses or scientific evidence linking him to the shooting. This surprising turn of events would raise the question of why nobody had at any point explained to Black Youngster that snitching and ratting don't usually refer to lying, but the opposite. Gotti, on the other hand, returned to distancing himself from the feud publicly.
You know, someone attempted on Dude's life in Charlotte.
No situation.
So it's no situation on your behalf.
It definitely seems one-sided the way, you know, the energy he's putting into
Yo
it.
Gotti don't be in situations. Yo Gotti get money. Yo Gotti help artists come up and build careers for their family. You know what I mean? Yo Gotti helps young cats from the hood change their life. Yo Gotti don't be in situations. We don't get in nothing negative.
Meanwhile, both Yo Gotti's CMG and Young Dolph's PRE labels would keep gaining prominence in the rap industry, and while CMG still reigned over the Memphis rap scene, Paper Route Empire was starting to build its own formidable legacy, with the year 2017 being particularly pivotal as Dolph would sign the rapper Key Glock to his roster. Glock, who was a talented rapper in his own right, was also Young Dolph's actual blood cousin.
Like really, like that's my family, like that's my real blood, so everything we agree on, like, is verbal. So, like, when, you know what I'm saying, like, we got to understanding with everything we do, like, as far as music and not even music, that's everything, period, just life, period, we got to understanding with each other.
But unfortunately, while the decision to sign Key Glock arguably propelled PRE onto greater success, it most likely also brought Young Dolph and his future killers into the same orbit, because, as mentioned, Key Glock had an alleged background in street crews like the Goon Squad Mafia and OLG, aka OG Lump Gang, and therefore it was no surprise that he would also be very close to members of the Trulla Mafia, with several members being present in his 2018 music video for the song Hot, including one of Dolph's alleged killers, Justin Johnson, better known in the streets of Memphis as the Trulla Mafia member Straight Drop, as well as another member who would also be connected to the murder during the police investigation named Joshua Taylor, better known as the Trulla member CEO Teasy, who was one of the best friends of the leader of Trulla, J Money. But even before the new threats would begin to materialize, Dolph would once again find himself on the wrong side of the gun, because only 6 months after his Escalade was riddled with over 100 bullets in North Carolina, he nearly lost his life again, this time at the Loews Hollywood Hotel in Los Angeles. According to reports, the incident began when Dolph got into an argument with 3 men in the valet area of the hotel, which soon turned to a physical confrontation where somebody knocked Young Dolph to the ground, at which point 3 of the men pulled out a gun and opened fire, hitting Dolph. He still managed to stagger across the street to a nearby Shoe Palace store to safety while the suspects fled the scene.
That group of 3 men and Young Dolph were in an argument which escalated to become a fist fight. Young Dolph was knocked to the ground. When he was on the ground, one of those 3 men pulled out a handgun and fired several rounds at Young Dolph, striking him.
After being shot, Young Dolph headed inside here, the Shoe Palace, and you can see a trail of his blood left behind. Blood is splattered all over the floor of the entrance. Police are called once employees spot him inside here.
He starts to leap into the shoe palace and he started crawling in there and he was dripping blood. You can see the trail of blood just leaking down from him. And I was just very terrified.
This surveillance video shows someone running from the scene.
In the chaotic aftermath, Dolph was rushed to hospital in critical but stable condition. Soon after, police found a gold Cadillac Escalade, believed to be linked to one of the shooters, abandoned at a nearby gas station. Just 3 days later, a man named Corey McClendon and another known associate of Gotti were arrested by the LA police. But lack of evidence and zero cooperation from Dolph meant that once again the suspect would get out scot-free. It had now been the third time that someone allegedly connected to Yo Gotti had been linked to an attack on Dolph that could have claimed his life. But still, after Dolph was discharged from the hospital weeks later, he only had one simple message for the shooters as he laughed and taunted them once again for failing their mission.
You did? Yeah. I know I didn't think it was over with.
But still, it was clear that the beef had dried out somewhat, with both sides seemingly focusing on other avenues for the time being. It would take almost 2 years for the next violent incident to take place, when in May 2019, Yo Gotti's empty tour bus was shot up in Nashville, Tennessee. At the time, the event was ultimately downgraded to a simple case of vandalism.
Rapper Yo Gotti's tour bus hit by gunfire overnight in Nashville. Police say no one was on the bus when it was shot up around 11 last night, so no one was hurt. They say the gunfire appears to be targeted vandalism, and no word yet on a possible shooter.
However, more recent comments from Hernandez Govan could point to another theory, as according to him, Dolph wasn't the only one who had put a bounty on his head, as there were rumors that one had also been put on Gotti by Dolph.
So on this particular night when we were having the music meeting, it was a knock at the door, and I went to the door and it was Cornelius. And I was under the impression that he just wanted some X bills or whatever like he normally did. So I told him to come back later. I was trying to get a deal signed for drop. And he was like, no, it's important. So I stepped outside, and that's when he mentioned to me, he was like, man, they ain't trying to do nothing about Dolph trying to kill Gotti. So at that point, I never heard of that incident. You know, I heard of it, if you reverse it, I done heard of it that way, you know, the attempted hits on Dolph, but at that point, I hadn't heard anything about someone trying to do anything to Gotti.
At least publicly, however, things would stay peaceful, and in August, XXL magazine would honor Dolph by calling him the rap indie king that managed to overcome the beef for success. While potential for peace from Gotti's side was further evident when legendary New Orleans rapper Master P openly called for an end to the conflict between the pair at Gotti's birthday bash, something Gotti responded to positively.
I love my dog, but I want to see us all come together in peace one day. I want to see Dolph, I want to see all of us come together, man. That's what I want to see. We're going to do this after this. Keep it going.
Later on his 2020 album Untrapped, Yo Gotti would reflect on who he had become by outlining a shift in focus from street life to business and growth, regardless of how people around him seemed disappointed that he'd changed. Meanwhile, on Dolph's side, besides his beef with Yo Gotti, his independence and refusal to at least publicly affiliate with specific gangs had always been his greatest strength, which allowed him to navigate the Memphis rap scene without any clear allegiance to any side. But as discussed in the previous chapter, PRE's continued expansion into the volatile Memphis rap scene as label owners meant that by signing new artists, PRE were also inheriting their street rivalries, along with the usual envy and jealousy that come with success. Just months before his death, and in front of his PRE roster, young Dolph would speak about what it really took to earn a spot on the team, and the many people that felt entitled to be on it.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can ask them, ask anybody to be with me. It's like, man, I got so many partners and so many different people you let them tell I supposed to been signed them years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But don't really be, it's like, you gotta have the music, and I gotta really like take a liking to you. I gotta with you. I ain't finna have nobody around me that I really don't with. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't fake it like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Tragically, one of those very same individuals who didn't make the cut would later be amongst the gunmen who took Dolph's life. At this point in the story, to understand how everything unfolded, we need to examine the men accused of orchestrating that hit, because according to reports, Hernandez Govan, the man who would be accused of being the mastermind behind the murder, had a criminal record that stretched all the way back to the early 2000s, with multiple arrests related to drugs, firearms, and violent offenses. During an interview with Vlad, Govan later admitted that he had business dealings with both Dolph and Daddio, though he claimed these interactions were limited to small-scale marijuana sales.
We did business years ago before he actually blew up. He was rapping at the time, but he hadn't blown up yet. You know, just being in the streets, selling petty marijuana back and forth. So Yeah, I knew Dolph personally. He was a good dude. I met Daddy-O from, I got a brother named Ziploc from South Memphis, and we used to just sell petty marijuana years ago.
Hernandez Govan's role in the dope game is supported by arrest records that detail a long pattern of drug-related offenses ranging from marijuana to hydrocodone. While his exact gang affiliations remain unclear, Govan frequently represented the Orange Mound neighborhood in Memphis, which is tattooed on his arms, where Trulla Mafia has been known to have presence, with Govan later explaining that he had a relationship with early Trulla members, including J Money and D Money, who were best friends with his nephew.
Connection to D Money and J Money.
I mean, we all grew up in Orange Mound together. They was, they were younger, a lot younger. I know their parents. Got respect for their parents. I guess relationships, so to speak, because they were best friends with my nephew, Jaquez.
Moreover, social media posts from Trulla Mafia members, such as CEO TZ following Govan's 2017 arrest, suggested that Govan played some kind of leadership role within the group. In a revealing Facebook post, TZ claimed that Govan had been behind everything he did, and that once Govan was released from jail, he planned to gift him a Benz just like Ace did Mitch in the 2002 movie Paid in Full. Taken in context, if interpreted literally, the comparison suggested that he was the one who put CEO TZ on. According to Govan's own account, by 2016, he had already met Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, the man later identified as one of Dolph's alleged shooters, who he described as a young man with a violent edge.
So I met Justin in probably 2000 and maybe 17, 16.
Okay. So you knew him about 6-7 years?
Yeah, correct. Yes, sir.
Did you know that he has a violent side like that?
Yeah, I knew he wasn't an angel. I knew that. Yeah.
At the same time, Straight Drop was just starting to make moves in the streets as an alleged young dealer whose reputation was steadily on the rise. More and more, photos of him holding stacks of money started including guns, and over time, more photos began to surface showing Straight Drop alongside CEO TZ and other members of Trulla Mafia, which solidified the network that would later stand at the center of young Dolph's murder. Through these ties, Straight Drop's link to Dolph became clearer, as he was seemingly connected indirectly through CEO TZ and Trulla Mafia's association with the PRE artist Key Glock. A couple of years later, in January 2017, an argument inside Billy Hardwick's All-Star Lanes in Memphis escalated into violence that foreshadowed his path of destruction. During the confrontation, then 18-year-old Straight Drop walked out of the bowling alley, retrieved a rifle from his car parked outside, and opened fire through the front doors, shooting and injuring 2 men, 1 woman, and grazing a 4th. In the chaos that followed, Straight Drop became the focus of a citywide manhunt, and a warrant was quickly issued for his arrest. When police finally caught up with him days later, he was charged with 3 counts of aggravated assault for the shooting.
Breaking news alert, police just arrested the teenager accused of shooting 4 people at a bowling alley on January 31st. He's 18-year-old Justin Johnson. Police say the shooting started after a fight. Neighbors say tonight they are not living in fear.
And he later pleaded guilty, but shockingly only served 6 months behind bars, and according to the presiding judge, his reduced sentence was due to his good behavior while in custody.
Because there were 3 people involved, he pled guilty to 5 years in prison and agreed not to ask for probation. He agreed to go to prison.
Kraft says because Johnson was so well behaved in prison, he was given probation and released.
Now, according to some rumors, Straight Drop's girlfriend, who I'll leave unnamed, was actually the person who identified him to the police, as told by the YouTuber True Results.
Was Justin Johnson's girlfriend, get it, to leaving the scene with Justin Johnson after the shooting. To also advise that she witnessed Justin Johnson shoot into the bowling alley at a vehicle.
Soon after the case, the girlfriend was allegedly dating 38-year-old Howard Barnett, also known as Nookie or Rico, not to be confused with Rico from Pooh Shiesty's Chopper Gang, who is allegedly killed by the Trulla Mafia-affiliated Y&R clique. But by July 2017, Rico, aka Barnett, had mysteriously vanished without a trace, and despite ongoing searches, he's still never been found. Then, on October 6, 2017, when the girlfriend made a now-deleted Facebook post about Rico's disappearance, Straight Drop would disturbingly react to the post with a laughing emoji. Adding to the mystery, when authorities eventually located Rico's vehicle, it had been burned and abandoned about 60 miles outside of Memphis near a shed with a metal door. Then over a year later, in late 2018, when Straight Drop returned to music with a song called Letter to Ops, the music video appeared to have been filmed inside a shed eerily similar to the one found near the crime scene, complete with the distinctive metal door and a chilling scene showing a bound victim who was executed by the end of the video. These coincidences seem to point towards something strange going on beneath the surface, which was further boosted by the fact that Straight Drop would eventually get back together with his ex who had dated Rico. Although to be absolutely clear, There is no real proof that Straight Drop or the girlfriend had anything to do with Rico's disappearance, and these are all just internet rumors. But what seemed obvious was that Straight Drop and his good friend CEO TZ were both driven to get out of the streets and try and make it through the music industry, following the path that their good friend J Money had set for them years earlier before his untimely passing, and therefore Straight Drop would keep releasing songs, hoping one of them would finally open the door for him. But by the end of the year, something other than determination was beginning to show, as he appeared to be envious, as CEO TZ would post a video on Facebook of Key Glock and Young Dolph freestyling on Tim Westwood TV while tagging Straight Drop and adding emojis that appeared to throw subtle shade at Young Dolph and Key Glock. Straight Drop echoed the sentiment, simply commenting, "Nah," and when other Trulla Mafia members commented that Young Dolph needed to put them on, in other words sign them, Straight Drop's reply was simply, "No cap." Yet despite what seemed like hating, it was clear that Straight Drop wanted to be on the label and even had direct access to Dolph, but for whatever reason, Young Dolph never signed him. As he later explained to Genius, Dolph had strict standards for who he chose to bring onto the label.
I know when somebody really want it. I know when somebody listen. I know when somebody bull. I know when somebody's just around just to be around to get whatever they trying to get. You see what I'm saying? So when you got talent, like you look around, it's like, I ain't signing no million artists. You know what I mean? Everybody want me to sign them. But it's like at the end of the day, when I sign somebody, bro, it's more than just all that studio. You know what I mean? Them songs. It's like, I gotta really be able to deal with the person, like the person, and really like the vibe they give out.
Just 2 months after this, in February 2019, Straight Drop found himself back behind bars after violating his probation, a setback that would keep him locked up for the next 2 years. Yet even during his time in jail, people around him had still believed he had star potential, such as CEO TZ, who made a post wishing for his freedom so he could sign a deal. However, as 2020 rolled in, Paper Route Empire announced a new artist, Big Moochie Grape, who, as mentioned in a previous chapter, was affiliated with Trulla Mafia's enemies like Double R, signaling that Young Dolph's camp was moving on without Straight Drop. From inside his prison cell, Straight Drop would post a message that hinted at growing resentment, as he wrote, "It's my fault for thinking they're real, but it is what it is." From that moment on, it seemed like Straight Drop's, and likely the entire Trulla Mafia's attention, would slowly begin to turn away from Paper Route Empire towards CMG. And by 2021, around the time of Drop's release from prison, CEO TZ would text Big Juk with a message saying he's got this rapper named Straight Drop and that Juk needs to meet him. By May 2021, after his release from prison, Straight Drop seemed determined once again to chase his musical ambitions. And as Hernandez Govan later explained on No Jumper, Drop had both the street credibility and raw talent needed to make it big, and if he landed a deal, Govan would earn a finder's fee.
Do club performances every day, but you were thinking, this guy seems like he has the talent to get signed to a legitimate label deal. I want to basically guide him into that opportunity and then get my percentage.
Definitely. He definitely had the talent. He definitely had the street credibility.
Still, Straight Drop's criminal record made him a risky investment.
That was one of my brother's main concerns. Like, what if we do this and he on federal probation, and what if he go and anything happen in the streets, you know, then the money is just a loss.
But nevertheless, Hernandez Govan and his brother decided to take a chance on him anyway, investing an initial $10,000 advance to help Straight Drop focus on music.
So we came up with the idea of, well, let's just give him $10,000 as an advance.
Okay.
And if we give him the $10,000, I get him to agree, look, this for you, you don't have to be in the streets trying to be selling no weed and moving around, just focus on making some music, and let's just try to get this out the ground.
By September 2021, Govan's support had paid off, as Drop secured features with rising artists like Big 30 and Big Homie G, with footage of a recording session showing Govan and the three rappers together in the studio being posted on YouTube, with hashtags clearly aiming to get CMG's attention. Under the surface, this video also reflected the ever-changing rivalries and alliances in the Memphis streets, as Big 30 and Big Homie G's gang, the KSBG, had previously been very close with the Double R gang, who Trulla Mafia were in a deadly war with, but things had since become more complex between them and would eventually evolve into an actual beef. And this was just the tip of the iceberg, as evidence later suggested during the Hernandez Govan trial that deeper connections were forming between Memphis's intertwined music industry and street networks. On July the 9th, Straight Drop would allegedly text CEO TZ telling him they needed to spin the streets, as someone named Duke had pulled up on Dolph. This was perhaps referring to none other than Stupid Duke, the founder of Young Mob, who had just been released from prison in early 2021 and had since started his own rap career and was now looking to work together with Dolph's PRE label, as he had mentioned during his 2020 jail call interview. The message that followed talked about Dolph renting the same studio out for the rest of the year and told TZ to call Juk to to make some, the implication perhaps being that now they knew where Dolph could be found, he would be easy to take out after a deal had been put together with Gotti's brother. Then towards the end of the month, on July the 27th, 2021, Hernandez Govan texted Straight Drop, telling him to meet him at Still Smoking Memphis, an establishment co-owned by Yo Gotti's brother Big Jook and a man named Lambert McDaniels, better known as Uncle Am. Uncle Am's background would add another layer to the story, as he allegedly had direct ties to the infamous Memphis mob gang and had previously been indicted alongside Memphis drug lords Ronnie and Steve Woods for running a network that stretched from Memphis to Texas. This meeting marked the first face-to-face contact between Straight Drop and Big Jook and was a moment that would quietly set major events into motion, as the two exchanged contact information, establishing a direct line of communication. Just one day later, the violence began, as Straight Drop sent a text message containing an address to a man named Jermaine Sears. Within 50 minutes of that message, chaos erupted at the 821 South Highland Street, where witnesses reported a tan BMW being chased by a burgundy Dodge Charger into an auto shop parking lot. Moments later, a man identified as Terrence Baker, also known as the PRE artist Paper Route Wu, jumped out of the BMW and ran on foot as three suspects exited the Charger and opened fire. Roughly an hour after the shooting, authorities discovered the abandoned Dodge Charger on the side of the road. Inside, investigators found a drinking glass, an iPhone, and prints on the rearview mirror, all of which would later link back to Justin Johnson, aka Straight Drop, as well as two men named Rashad Hill and Cavasius Wesley. Almost 3 weeks later, tension erupted once again, when around 2 p.m. a frantic 911 call came in from 3645 Allendale in South Memphis. The caller, who refused to identify himself but was later confirmed to be Paper Route Wu, told dispatchers he was in the middle of a shootout and needed the police urgently. As the call continued, his voice dropped to a whisper as he told the operator he was hiding behind a house and that there were multiple enemy vehicles in the area. Throughout this whole time and up until Young Dolph's murder, cell phone records showed active contact between Hernandez Govan, Big Jook, and Young Dolph's accused killers, Straight Drop and Cornelius Smith. But one thing stood out clearly. While Straight Drop communicated directly with Jook several times a day, his contact with the other shooter, Cornelius Smith, was noticeably limited, nor did Cornelius Smith at any point communicate with Big Jook directly, pointing to Straight Drop being the direct link between Jook and the shooting. When November 2021 arrived, that pattern became even more defined, until November the 15th, when everything shifted again, as Straight Drop suddenly had no calls with Jook, yet placed 14 calls to Cornelius Smith, pointing to the alleged mastermind, perhaps consciously distancing himself from Straight Drop in preparation for what was about to come. Then when November the 17th dawned, the network came alive once more, as both Straight Drop and Cornelius Smith's cell phones pinged at Smith's house at 1766 Wild Rose Street, just 2 miles from the Makeda's cookie shop where Young Dolph would soon lose his life. When opening statements were made during Young Dolph's later murder trial, court revelations described a hidden trail of drive-bys, ambushes, and retaliation, and among those incident was an alleged attempt on Yo Gotti's life, which may have been ordered by Young Dolph prior to his murder. That same story brought up in court was later repeated by Hernandez Govan, the alleged mastermind behind Dolph's murder, who later told No Jumper that the word on the street was that Dolph had allegedly placed a hit on Yo Gotti.
When Cornelius, when I was approached with this, for one, I thought it was a lie, because I never heard of Dolph trying to do anything to Gotti at that point. I done heard of it the other way around. And two, Jook hadn't said nothing to me about no beef or Dolph trying to kill his brother, so...
According to Govan, when Big Jook was informed about the alleged hit in 2021, Jook confirmed that Gotti's truck had been shot at, but the bulletproof plating had kept Yo Gotti alive.
He was leaving, and that's when he was approached by Cornelius and Bobby. To my surprise, Jook didn't say, "You don't know what the you're talking about." Yeah, Jook knew what he was talking about. Matter of fact, Jook asked him how did he know that. That lived by his dad, and Dolph had been bragging on the drill that he, sent some people to get up with Gotti. And Gotti was in the Rolls Royce bulletproof truck.
Also, shortly before Dolph's death, another rumored confrontation took place at an airport in Miami, during which Key Glock reportedly spat in Big Jook's face while Young Dolph was present. This alleged incident was later covered by YouTuber True Results on his channel, who confirmed its validity through his own sources.
About an incident that happened at an airport in Miami between Key Glock, Dolph was there, and Big Jook, when it was said that Key Glock spit in Big Jook's face, and the airport security had to de-escalate the situation. But it was never confirmed until now.
If true, these events partially explained the escalating tensions and violence over the past year that were about to reach a tragic resolution. In the early hours of November the 17th, 2021, surveillance cameras quietly captured movements that would later become central to one of Memphis's most shocking murders. Around 2:58 a.m. on the day of the murder, Straight Drop received a text from Trayon Ingram of a location on Bradley Street, and shortly after, Drop is captured leaving his apartment and returning with a white Mercedes-Benz that has a distinctive scratch on the back right of the vehicle. That would later be used in the shooting.
Correct. And we're at 2:41 a.m. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Shoes, sweatpants, hoodie.
Yes.
This time the hood on. That car that way.
That's the car that we located. That's also the car video at the McKee's Cookies with the damage.
Okay.
But in any case, about 40 minutes before Dolph's murder, cameras recorded Straight Drop leaving Crosstown Concourse Apartments in the white Mercedes together with his young daughter, dressed in a black hoodie, grey sweatpants, and a Bass Pro Shops hat, which later matched the description of one of the shooters. Later testimony from Cornelius Smith, the second shooter, confirmed that while they had known Dolph was in Memphis for his annual Thanksgiving turkey drive, their mission that day was to find, shoot, and kill any Paper Route Empire artists that had money on their head.
If they already had hits on everybody's head and we was out looking for somebody. We didn't know we were gonna catch Dolph, we didn't know who we were gonna catch.
And he went on to explain that they had spotted Dolph's vehicle by chance, and that's when they followed him to the Makeda's cookie shop. Soon, Dolph was captured on surveillance pulling into the parking lot and entering the store alongside his brother. Moments later, two masked men emerged from the white Mercedes, with Cornelius Smith carrying a Draco, a short-barreled AK-style weapon, and Straight Drop toting a handgun, as the duo quickly ran in front of the shop window and opened fire. Inside, chaos erupted as Dolph was immediately struck multiple times, while Dolph's brother Marcus would react quickly, drawing his weapon and returning fire, hitting Smith and grazing Straight Drop. But tragically, young Dolph was shot 22 times, including in the head, chest, and back. And later testimony from the medical examiner would show Dolph's blood-soaked shirt with numerous bullet holes in it, while 4 bullets would actually be recovered from his body alongside 3 other ones from prior shootings, a grim final reminder of the violent life that he'd been living.
Do you recover bullets from the body that are still in the body at the time of the autopsy?
Yes.
How many of those did you recover?
So I recovered 4 bullets that were related to this shooting, and then there were 3 others that occurred like he had in his body from before. So remote bullets, I found 3 of them.
During the murder trial, Cornelius Smith identified Straight Drop as the other shooter.
All right, who's the second person here that got out of the driver's side?
Just
He's got the smaller handgun, is that right?
yeah, bad baseball hat, bad pro baseball hat.
You're firing this crazy thing.
The guy out of start shooting.
All right. Proceed till Justin shoots.
In addition, cell tower data confirmed that both men's phones had pinged in the vicinity of Makeda's Cookies during the attack, while cell phone records revealed that Straight Drop had made a 12-second FaceTime call to Big Juk, where according to Smith's testimony, Drop spelled out the letters DOLPH. Hours after the shooting, cameras caught Straight Drop and Cornelius Smith arriving at an apartment, still wearing the same clothes from the crime scene, with investigators even later matching the color of Drop's underwear to what was seen on the surveillance footage. As later told by Straight Drop's half-brother Jamarcus during the trial, Drop called him soon after the murder and asked him to rent him a car, and that he had also helped arrange 3-way calls between Drop and Cornelius where they discussed getting paid by someone called Unk, who prosecutors believed to be Big Juk himself, Yogo's brother. Within 24 hours of the shooting, Memphis police released photos of the suspects and the getaway car before the authorities would locate the same vehicle on a driveway in Orange Mound, right across the street from Hernandez Govan's house.
With breaking news, video from a neighbor that shows the alleged car used in the murder of rapper Young Dolph. Fox 13's Jeremy Pierre has confirmed it with several sources. On the right of your screen, that car being towed away. On the left is a picture of the car police are looking for from the day the murder happened. The car was found in the 1100 block of Bradley in South Memphis.
The fingerprints in the vehicle would be tied back to Cornelius Smith and Trey Ingram, with Ingram then directing the investigators to check for security footage of the white Mercedes in a parking garage of the building where Straight Drop lived, as well as security footage of a gas station where Ingram and another man appeared to trade another car for the Mercedes before Straight Drop would then allegedly drive the Mercedes back to the garage of his building. For the next few years, it was a deadly countdown as police scrambled to make arrests before the streets would deliver their own kind of justice. The first to land behind bars was was Cornelius Smith, who was identified by the fingerprints left in the vehicle used in the shooting, and he was arrested almost 9 hours away in South Haven, Mississippi. As police continued to build their case, Cornelius Smith would later become their star witness. Alongside the police, internet sleuths were conducting their own investigations, and while police gathered what they could from Smith behind bars, Straight Drop was publicly self-snitching through music and social media. His first music video, released days after the shooting, was titled Stepped On and featured Big Homie G, who is Moneybagg Yo's cousin and is signed to the same Endless Entertainment label. The video included Straight Drop rocking what looked like a PRE chain on his waist, and even though the music video had been recorded weeks before the shooting, it certainly raised a few eyebrows, as the chains could possibly be traced back to the robbery of PRE artist Big Moochie Grape in 2020, which was followed by a social media post from local Memphis rapper OG Bang Wayne, who was a gangster disciple with long-standing relationships with Trulla Mafia.
Too many trying to get tight. Yeah, man, I should have been sniper guy, how popping these down. No rap cap. But I ain't gonna speak about that, cause these is snitching, but you know, this is PRE. The Red Entertainment.
The robbery would result in Big Moochie Grape getting shot and put in the hospital. However, the incident also came with allegations of snitching against Big Moochie Grape, who allegedly identified Wayne Sanders, aka OG Bang Wayne, as the shooter. Anyway, online sleuths would later discover that one of Straight Drop's music videos had been filmed right outside the house where that white Mercedes was eventually recovered. But while the internet investigators uncovered some compelling leads, their deep dives also begun to blur the lines between evidence and speculation, and at times dangerously implicating people who were never formally charged in the killing of young Dolph. One of those was Trulla Mafia member JoJo Splat, whose fingerprints were found in a vehicle linked to an earlier attempted hit on Paper Route Woo, alongside Straight Drop and Rashad Hill. Others pointed to Trulla Mafia member CEO Bobby after photos surfaced of him posing beside a white Mercedes coupe, strikingly similar to the getaway car used in the ambush. And then in February 2022, both JoJo Splat and CEO Bobby were arrested in connection with a string of car thefts across Memphis, a twist that only added to the public speculation that the pair might have been part of a wider operation that supplied stolen vehicles to the shooters during their hunt for Paper Route Empire affiliates. Meanwhile, Straight Drop showed little interest in keeping a low profile, freely flaunting stacks of money and designer outfits on Instagram even as the police closed in. He also kept releasing music, including one unreleased track that fans later viewed as a thinly veiled taunt towards young Dolph. In one verse, he raps about signing a deal, then going to kill, a lyric that in hindsight is very creepy. He would also rap about getting the drop and walking someone down with the Draco, one of the weapons used in the shooting, before ending with lines about staking out an opponent and catching them by surprise. Later comments even joked that in the same video, Straight Drop appeared to be wearing boxers that matched the color of those seen on one of the shooters in the surveillance footage. By January the 5th, 2022, investigators officially named Justin Straight Drop Johnson as a suspect, placing him on Tennessee's most wanted list and offering a $15,000 reward for any information leading to his capture. Then, just 6 days later, on January the 11th, the US Marshals captured Johnson in Indiana after a regional manhunt stretched across multiple states. Authorities also announced the arrest of a third suspect, Shondell Barnett, who was traveling with Johnson at the time and was accused of aiding his escape.
Right now at 5, 3 men in police custody in the young Dolph murder case. The Shelby County District Attorney's Office and Memphis Police Department with new developments over the past 24 hours. A third man, Shondell Barnett, is facing charges of accessory after the fact to first-degree murder, accused of assisting Justin Johnson as he evaded law enforcement.
However, prosecutors would later drop the charges against Barnett. At first, what seemed like a straight march to trial soon evolved into a slow, strategic war of motions, and it only deepened the public's suspicions that CMG might have been involved. Right before his arrest, Fox 13 Memphis reported that they had reached out to Straight Drop's attorney, Arthur Horn, for comment. However, Horn wasn't just any defense attorney. He happened to be the same man who had successfully represented Black Youngster in his 2017 case involving the shooting of young Dolph's SUV in Charlotte. However, Horn quickly and explicitly denied that he was representing anyone involved in the young Dolph murder case. Yet on the same day as that statement, Fox Memphis reported that Straight Drop had actually been dropped by the attorney, which only served to muddy the waters on what was actually going on. A few weeks after the initial arrests, police announced Devin Burns and Joshua Taylor, aka CEO TZ, as persons of interest wanted for questioning.
We're calling both men persons of interest. Very important to note. Regardless, those we spoke with say, however, Taylor and Burns could be connected. They are hoping the two men will help connect the dots. on a case that's being investigated still 3 months in.
And as investigators pressed forward, cell phone records, witness statements, and physical evidence led them to one final name, Hernandez Govan, the alleged mastermind behind the plot who would be indicted in November.
43-year-old Hernandez Govan was indicted by a grand jury Thursday for first-degree murder, criminal attempt first-degree murder, and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder.
By the end of 2022, 4 men were formally connected to the Young Dolph murder case: Hernandez Govan, the alleged orchestrator, Straight Drop and Cornelia Smith as the alleged shooters, and Jamarcus Johnson accused of aiding his half-brother Straight Drop to evade justice. Nearly a year after the broad daylight murder that shocked Memphis and the entire world, the investigation had finally come full circle, identifying not just the triggermen, but the network of alleged planners and accomplices behind one of hip-hop's most brazen assassinations. But while law enforcement had done their best to bring the people responsible to justice, in the streets of Memphis, a whole different kind of hunt had begun. In numerous later YouTube videos, it would be called the Slide for Dolph campaign, a street war that would claim a staggering number of lives. But in reality, while Dolph's murder might have lit the fuse, the bloodshed that followed ran far deeper than simple revenge. It was about years of tension finally boiling over, as old grudges were reignited, new enemies and alliances were made, and soon, the city found itself split down the middle once again. Only this time, it wasn't just about where you were from, but who you were connected to. Because in Memphis, where the rap game and the streets had become essentially one thing, 2 powerful street alliances begun to take shape, one orbiting around Dolph's paper route empire, and the other around Yo Gotti's CMG. Before we get to the bloodshed that followed Young Dolph's murder, let's take a closer look at the complicated gang alliances of the most popular Memphis street rappers. Because as many fans of Memphis rap have pointed out on Reddit, the city might have the most confusing street politics in America. On the PRE side of the beef, there was one gang above all others, the Young Mob, whose co-founder and alleged leader, Stupid Duke, had just been released from prison only months before Dolph's death, after having spent 9 long years behind bars. To understand Stupid Duke's influence in the streets, consider this. Right as he was released, Duke wasn't just greeted by his family and friends, but also none other than Atlanta rapper Future, who would almost immediately get in touch with Duke, as can be seen in Duke's First Day Out music video. According to Duke, Future was even looking to sign him immediately, after he'd just been out for a couple of days.
People been trying to sign you and stuff?
Well, Future trying to sign when I first got out, but it was, I was taking, I ain't do it because it was moving too fast. I wanted to see what the street was. I went down there for 2 or 3 days.
With no disrespect intended, anyone who's heard Stupid Duke on the mic knows that it quickly becomes rather obvious that Future wasn't looking to sign Duke because of his impeccable rapping abilities. Much more likely, Future wanted to associate with Duke because of his reputation in the streets, where he wasn't just known as Stupid Duke, but by his other nickname, Spooky Duke, which he received because, as he would describe it, things can get scary with him real fast.
Why they call you Spooky Duke?
You got extra streets there, it's scary. I just stand on what I stand on. It's business. Like, I'm coming. I ain't telling when, but I'm coming. So it's just spooky.
When asked about PRE and CMG during the same interview in 2023, when Dolph had already passed away, Duke kept it cordial, saying that there was no beef with CMG, but he would also make it known that he stood with Paper Route Empire all the way.
Would you sign with CMG?
Nah, I ain't got no problem with CMG, but I won't sign to him.
Paper
ain't
Route.
no bad blood or nothing.
Paper Route?
Yeah, I f with Paper Route more different here. Yeah, I f with Paper Route. Off the muscle.
Yeah.
Besides Young Mob rappers like Kenny Money, who signed with PRE, also one other alleged Young Mob founder, the rapper BEO Lil Kenny, had seemingly built up a close relationship with Dolph in the past, explaining during his Off the Porch interview how Dolph had been the only person to believe in him when he first started rapping around the mid-2010s, even when others would tell how Kenny was bad news because of his reputation in the streets and numerous pending cases.
This is why I like the Dolph, bro, because even though I had pending cases going on. I had a bad rep in the street. I had hey man, don't f with Lil Kenny, you know what I'm saying? Hey, he gonna do something crazy. But Dolph still, you know what I'm saying? Hey, Lil Kenny, bro, you know I wanna mess with you, bro. You know I wanna bring you in, bro, you know what I'm saying? He like, bro, look, this is what we gonna do right here. Woo, 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 give me the rundown on that. And I'm like, cool, we gonna do that. And then a day or 2, 3, 4 days later, I get jammed up, you know what I'm saying, go to jail. But I just kind of respected that, even though everybody else was kind of like, man, I don't know if I want to mess with Lil Kenny. Lil Kenny got it going on. He got his buzz, he popping, he doing the music, you know what I'm saying? And he can actually do big things, but I don't just know where his mind is, you know what I'm saying? And I kind of with that he was ready to take that chance on me, meaning he believed in me somewhere, you know what I'm saying?
Closely associated with Young Mob and also PRE was the Double R gang, and particularly their members like the rapper CEO Jizzle, who happens to be a real blood cousin of Young Dolph, and the rapper Kato 2 Times, who is Duke's real blood cousin. And of course their main rapper, Big Scar, who would reminisce about his close relationship with Dolph during his interview with DJ Omeezy.
In my research, I seen that Dolph was influential in your career.
Dude, my brother. Yeah, this hurt me.
Yeah. I think it hurt everybody, man. Even when I see like a clip of him, I just get this feeling like, dang.
Man, I ain't gonna lie. This is so crazy. I was just in the city. I was just riding down airways just looking at it. Cause I ain't even go to bro front or none of this. Like how they rolled off on me. I know what he was finna do next. He was finna do some real big shit. Like he really hated him, bro, on what he was doing. He was guilty. He don't put food in my stomach, clothes on my back, shoes on my feet. So like, he really was a big inspiration.
However, after Dolph's death, Double R would find themselves in a difficult situation. On one hand, they had since the beginning been close with the KSBG gang, as Double R's most famous rapper, Big Scar, happened to be a cousin of Pooh Shiesty, his gang being the Chopper Gang, also known as CGE, or Chopper Gang Entertainment, who were very closely tied in with KSBG through members like their most popular rapper, Big 30. On the other hand, Dolph had allegedly been killed by Double R's main enemy, Trulla Gang, who seemed to have been moving on the orders of CMG, or at least Big Jook, while KSBG rappers like Big 30 and Big Nooski were signed to Moneybagg Yo's Bread Gang Entertainment, which was strongly tied in with CMG. To make matters even more complicated, these were just the more known gangs, but there were numerous lesser known sets and cliques all around them, often with equally complex personal affiliations and rivalries. And now we're just talking about South Memphis. And up in North Memphis, you still also had gangs with deep ties to CMG, such as the infamous Fast Cash Boys, aka FCB, and there's still poppin' rappers like Fast Cash Jizzle and C Money. The way gangs are organized in Memphis is frighteningly complicated, and in the streets, complications can lead to danger. And so with all of this going on, and an army of people who were very bitter about the murder of Young Dolph, it wouldn't take long before bodies began dropping in record speed. The first casualty would be a somewhat surprising one, but in many ways, the perfect victim to create the image that half of Memphis had essentially come together to slide for Dolph. It all started right after Dolph's death, as the up-and-coming Memphis comedian Darion Childs, aka D Money, took it to Facebook with a strange message, as he would go on to say, "Them folks just tried to kill Young Dolph. I love Memphis, we so gangster." Obviously people would take this as D Money celebrating Dolph's death, and given that Dolph was undoubtedly one of the city's most loved artists, the blowback would be swift, causing D Money to delete the post almost immediately. But unfortunately, that didn't mean he was about to stop, and he would soon follow that with a post saying y'all didn't even cry like this when Martin Luther King died, before telling people to shut up. It seems that D Money simply couldn't leave the topic alone. After all, this was giving him more clout than any of his comedy skits ever had, and a few days later, he would joke that if you're not from Memphis, or you're not the police, just quit trying to solve the murder because the police came and locked my grandma up. Then, 2 days later, on November the 23rd, at around 10:30 PM, D Money would arrive at the Valero gas station on North Watkins Road in Fraser, North Memphis, with at least one other person. When 2 black SUVs arrived at the gas station, and at least one gunman, dressed in all black, appeared from one of the vehicles, opening fire and hitting D Money and 2 other people. The 2 others would end up surviving, but D Money, who had seemingly been the target of the shooting, would pass away from his injuries, his murder taking place just 6 days after Young Dolph had been killed. And the media were quick to point out how this appeared to be direct retaliation at D Money due to his insensitive comments about Dolph's death. However, what most media failed to note was that D Money wasn't just any comedian, he was also an alleged gang member with ties to crews like the Fast Cash Boys, and had been repping his gang affiliations openly online, like in this vlog from back in 2017.
D-Mo, man, y'all know what the going on. Let me show y'all who presidential behind the old man. We stepping out the we presidential, man. What's going on? SBS, FCB, I'm in the project right now, man. Y'all know what the going on. Hey, man, keep crew done with my free YC state, my free Nunu state, man. Free the other Nunu too, man. You come on real soon, man. Whole lot of teenage going on Terry, man. Whole lot of fan kids.
More recently, D Money had also begun repping a clique known as YNC, or Youngest in Charge, who are the younger generation of older gangs from the Fraser area, like the infamous Fam Mob. D Money was also seemingly connected to Yo Gotti and CMG to at least some capacity, likely through growing up in the same area in North Memphis, and he'd even got a chance to perform at his birthday bash. D Money's killers are still unknown, but many people close to Dolph would celebrate on social media, such as the PRE rapper Big Unk, who would make several posts laughing at D Money after his death. But D Money's death marked only the beginning of a violent chain reaction, one that would claim numerous lives in just a few years' time, as tensions in Memphis, and particularly South Memphis, boiled over in the wake of Young Dolph's murder. Following Dolph's murder and Straight Drop's arrest, the KSBG gang would seemingly become divided, because while on one hand, KSBG were close with guys like Big Unk, who was signed to PRE, there were also certain KSBG members who had been very close with many Trulla Mafia members growing up. One of these members was none other than the KSBG rapper Big Nooski, known on Facebook by the name Xavier Jones, who had seemingly been particularly close with Straight Drop himself, their relationship going all the way back to their childhood when they were both part of the OG Lump Gang clique. According to many, Nooski's close ties with Straight Drop would make him a target in the streets of Memphis following Dolph's death, and on the 28th of January 2022, after Nooski had just finished performing with his cousin Big 30 at a local high school event, he would head back to the New Horizon apartments, the main headquarters of the KSBG gang. Then, at around 7 PM, police would respond to calls of several gunshots coming from the apartments. When they arrived, they found Nooski in the parking lot, still sitting in his car, suffering from fatal gunshot wounds. Online, Nooski's murder was later labelled as another case of Memphis sliding for Dolph, the reason for his murder supposedly being his close relationship with Straight Drop, with online sleuths who were seemingly unaware of the deep childhood connection between Nooski and Straight Drop, attempting to prove their connection by noting how both had posed in front of the same white Corvette. However, in reality, the reason for Nooski's murder was likely far more complex, because as mentioned, Nooski was also part of Moneybagg Yo's Bread Gang entertainment label, or BGE, which was a problem in the streets of South Memphis, because while Nooski had allegedly repped the Goon Squad Mafia when he was younger, being with KSBG, and BGE now made Nooski a main rival of the young mob, whose leader Stupid Duke was finally back in the streets after spending 9 years behind bars and was ready to take his place as the kingpin of South Memphis, as well as being deeply angered by the disrespect that Moneybagg Yo had showed towards his old gang by doing a song together with Fast Cash Jizzle, an alleged killer of the very beloved young mob member Young Key. Moreover, according to online rumors, Nooski wasn't just a rapper, but someone who was very active in the streets, which was seemingly confirmed by Nooski's cousin Big 30, who would rap in his August 2022 song Scared of Us that Nooski had almost 9 kills. Moreover, Nooski had allegedly even had at least one shootout with Young Mob at a barbershop in 2021, and either during that shootout or another, he had allegedly hit Stupid Duke himself in the leg, as well as having shootouts with Trulla Mafia members, despite having still been close with guys like Straight Drop, showing just how confusing the street politics had become in Memphis. Following Nooski's death, social media would fill up with tributes, not just from other KSBG members, but also from big-time rappers like Nooski's Bread Gang label head, Moneybagg Yo, who would change his profile pic to Nooski and write on his stories how he's got his back forever, while even PRE members like Key Glock would pay respect to his childhood friend, but meanwhile, Nooski's ops were rejoicing. In July 2022, Stupid Duke dropped a track called He Got Hit, where he would constantly repeat the line, "He got hit like I got hit, but he ain't effing breathing," a reference to the famous line from 50 Cent's classic song Many Men, with the implication seemingly being that Young Mob had killed Nooski as a get back for shooting Duke. And just in case that line wasn't direct enough, Duke would also specify that his Young Mob goons had been sliding through the Kinggate apartments, now known as the New Horizon apartments where Nooski was killed. The message of the song wasn't lost on the listeners, who would take it as damn near a confession. Duke would continue dissing Nooski through music, like on the April 2023 song Rewind with RR rapper CEO Jizzle, which was released together with a music video that starts with a very specific message from Duke, who says that if you mess with Young Mob, your body will be found in a car, just like Nooski was.
Yeah, we can't make this up, man. YML, man, double up, man. Yeah, you found dead in your car, man.
Murder and millions, no count.
All type of murder, manipulation, everything with all this.
And in his verse, Duke would also diss someone who had died on Jizzle's birthday, which just so happens to be January the 28th, the very same day that Nooski was killed. But Nooski's death didn't only escalate the beef in the streets, but it would also seemingly play a role in the relationship between Moneybagg Yo and Big 30 falling apart, and what would start as behind-the-scenes beef would blow out into the open, with diss songs getting leaked from both sides, with particularly Moneybagg Yo's song titled Airball making headlines in May 2024, causing Big 30 to go all in on Moneybagg on social media, claiming that Moneybagg Yo came to KSBG for protection because he was getting extorted by Young Mob, and that Nooski essentially died because of Moneybagg's beef with Young Mob, and to add to the disrespect, Moneybagg Yo wouldn't even attend Nooski's funeral. This beef eventually caused Big 30 to leave Moneybagg's Bread Gang label.
And for you putting out this project now, you're independent now, right? Is this?
No, I'm signed to Endless Entertainment.
Okay, so you are still signed.
Yeah.
See, you said you was independent. You said you wasn't signed.
No, I never told you that. You
okay, oh no, you just not signed to Moneybagg Yo anymore.
Yeah.
How did you get out of that deal?
Oh man, how you pay the money, sign the contract.
Okay.
After that.
So you paid to get out of it.
Yeah, they got paid. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But while Nooski's murder was heavily associated with Young Mob in online rumors, it so far has remained unsolved. However, the next murder would take place only a few months later, and this time, the alleged perpetrators wouldn't ultimately be so lucky. In mid-2022, Young Mob would allegedly strike again against KSBG, and their target would be yet another rapper, 30-year-old Cheese Dollar, real name Jasper Strickland, who had been releasing music solo and with the other KSBG rappers for several years, trying to make a name for himself. But unfortunately, his music career would come to an abrupt end before it could ever gain proper momentum, because on the 28th of May around 6:30 p.m, Cheese Dollar and his two friends were sitting in a car in the parking lot of a McDonald's on East Shelby Drive, deep down at the bottom of Memphis, when they were suddenly ambushed by two shooters who opened fire, hitting both Cheese Dollar, who would end up passing away from his injuries, and one of his friends, who would fortunately end up surviving.
What we're seeing, as you can see, members of Memphis Police Crime Scene Unit and detectives, they have been in this parking lot of the McDonald's where the shooting occurred since about 6:30 this evening. Right now, a vehicle that was believed to be connected to the shooting was towed away minutes before you came to me. But when we first arrived on the scene, we saw a silver car that appeared to be a Honda Sonata shot up. The back window was completely busted, along with several bullet holes throughout the car. The latest information we got from Memphis police is that two males were shot and one of them died. It appeared that this crime scene is pretty widespread, considering that police have also put caution tape around the shopping center that is across the street from this McDonald's.
These shooters would allegedly turn out to be two young mob members, Mohamed Samba, better known in the streets as Mo Ski, and Quinton Moss. The police would eventually crack the case and get after them. Meanwhile, numerous people would continue to lose their lives. The month of September would bring yet another tragedy, but this time hundreds of miles away in Houston, where Memphis rapper Lottcash Desto was shot and killed. Desto was an artist signed to Lil Uzi Vert's label, and like most rappers, she was known for showing off her success online and was often seen rocking expensive jewelry and luxury outfits. According to police reports, a witness riding with Desto on the night of the shooting told officers that two men approached their vehicle and opened fire, causing Desto to also shoot back, striking one of the assailants in the abdomen before she would pass away from her injuries. At the time, the motive for the murder was unclear, with theories ranging from road rage to a robbery attempt gone wrong. However, later that year, following the indictment of Hernandez Govan for Young Dolph's murder, Desto was publicly identified as his daughter.
Yeah, she went by Lottcash Desto, but her real name, Destiny Govan. Houston police say the 25-year-old was shot and killed in Houston September 24th, early that morning.
This would understandably raise some questions, and even the mainstream media would later draw attention to a cryptic social media post from Govan himself, in which he appeared to blame himself for her death.
About a month after the murder, Hernandez Govan posted on Facebook, "I think I cursed you, Destiny, with my lifestyle. I apologize, baby."
Old social media activity also suggested that Desto was a member of Trulla Mafia, and she'd even collaborated with J Money on a 2015 track called Fly Girl Desto. These connections naturally raised questions whether her murder could have been yet another example of get back for Dolph, but by April 2023, two suspects, Christian Williams and Jeremiah Smith, were arrested and charged with her murder, and in later interviews, Hernandez Govan would explain how his daughter's death had absolutely nothing to do with Dolph's case, telling DJ Vlad how jewelry that was given to her by Lil Uzi Vert to raise her profile ended up unfortunately attracting the robber's attention, leading to her being targeted and followed from a Houston club before she was killed.
My daughter was killed over a botched robbery. Lil Uzi took liking to my daughter music-wise. She was very talented. He spent a great deal of money on jewelry and a lot of other things for her to kind of like, you know, boost her career. Seeing her in the club, they knew who she was because she's very popular on social media, and they said they knew her jewelry was real because, you know, she hung out with Uzi every day, all day, and they just decided to follow her in the club, stalk her, and rob her when she left.
But while Memphis rappers had unfortunately been dying at record speed, inside the courtroom, the wheels of justice with regards to Young Dolph's murder continued to turn, painfully slow. At the start of November 2022, it was revealed that Straight Drop had requested a transfer due to safety concerns, a sign that life behind bars might be just as dangerous as being hunted on the streets. In response to this news, PRE artist Paper Route Wu didn't hold back his thoughts, telling reporters that he'd probably want to transfer too if he was Straight Drop, because without guns, you gotta stand on all 10. By next week, Straight Drop was still making headlines from inside jail as he released new music, including his ironically titled November 2022 track, No Statements. In the song, he raps about only being a rapper, but the state calls him a paid killer, adding that he plans on not snitching and making it home soon. The lyrics blurred the line between confidence and recklessness, and people in the comments pointed the same thing out, joking how the police were having a field day listening to the track and claiming that if the commenter was Straight Drop's lawyer, then they would straight drop his case. Even Paper Route artists responded when asked about Straight Drop's unorthodox way of dropping music while being charged with murder, with Paper Route Wu jokingly noting how the title of the song seemed rather unfitting because someone was definitely making statements statements based on how people were getting arrested. And although Straight Drop seemingly had plans of keeping it solid, what he didn't know was that his co-conspirator was quietly planning to betray him. But meanwhile, back on the streets of Memphis, the situation would turn from bad to worse when in December 2022, the R rapper Big Scar would suddenly pass away due to an accidental overdose. This was not only terrible news for people close to him, because they had just lost their friend and their meal ticket, with Big Scar being one of the hottest up-and-coming rappers from Memphis. But it was also bad for the city, because Scar had likely been one of the only remaining links between the R, KSBG, and Chopper Gang alliance, which started very strong with rappers like Scar and his cousin Pooh Shiesty commonly putting out hits with each other in the rap game, together with Big Unk, who was cool with both R and KSBG before he'd gotten in trouble with the law in late 2021, which would eventually put him behind bars for the time being. But unfortunately, this alliance had since become weaker than ever due to certain R rappers like CEO Jizzle and Kato 2 Times siding strongly with Young Mob, who were now in a very serious war with KSBG, and indeed, with Scar now out of the picture, it would only take a few months and the carnage would continue. On the 10th of February 2023, at around midnight, someone would walk up to the yard of a home on the Kirkwood Road off Mill Branch and open fire towards the garage where people had gathered, hitting and killing Lacorian Smith, better known in the streets as JR Splat, who's the little brother of KSBG member Baby Migo, and the late Young Mob member Lil Migo, aka Corey Shaw, whose murder in 2015 allegedly played a role in causing the split between Young Mob and KSBG. According to a neighbor who witnessed the shooting, the killer moved with purpose, likely knowing the exact target still remains unsolved, but some online theories have placed the blame on Young Mob or CEO Jizzle from R, with Jizzle and Kato 2 Times dropping a song titled Step Brothers 2 in April, where Kato raps in the chorus how he drops another song every time an op dies, while Jizzle would mention in his verse how the ops can't even afford a tombstone and that he will chase his ops into their homes. These lyrics seemingly fitting JR Splat to a T, as there was a public funeral fund started for him after his death, and he was indeed seemingly killed inside his home. Jizzle would also mention how his op had lived a short life, which sadly also seems to refer to JR Splat, who was only 15 years old at the time of his death. Young Mob and their affiliates appeared to be unleashing chaos and death across Memphis, and even kids were in danger, but their next attempt would backfire in the worst possible way, claiming the life of one of their own. As tensions rose in the streets, Stupid Duke made it clear that peace wasn't an option, and during his interview with Wicked TV in March 2023, he was asked if he could ever squash any of his beef in the city, the response being a strong negative.
Beef in the city, man, like, do you think it'll ever end?
Nah, forever. Ain't no stopping. It's up. When it's up, it's up. Ain't no stop. We ain't doing it for the culture or none of this. Just is what it is. We're gonna be doing heaven and hell, cell, jail, hell. It's just up. It ain't never gonna stop.
Could you ever let things go?
Nah, I ain't letting nothing go.
You ain't letting nothing go?
No matter how rich I get, whatever, it's just dead for life.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So sitting down with people is out the question for you, type?
Yeah, we ain't sitting down. Ain't nothing to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you wrong, you wrong.
Uh-huh.
So that's just what it is.
Uh-huh.
A couple months later in May 2023, Tripstar, who was another rapper signed to Moneybagg Yo's Bread Gang label, was eating with his girlfriend at the Tugs Casual Grill in Harbortown, far away from the South Memphis war zone. But in Memphis, if you're a rich rapper, and especially if you're involved in any street beef, there's no such thing as a safe space. And what Tripstar didn't know was that his location had been leaked to his enemies. So as Tripstar and his girlfriend were enjoying their meal on the restaurant patio, two Young Mob members, Paul Nelson aka Big Paul and Roderick Winston aka Rallo, allegedly approached them at their table armed. Tripstar would quickly take off and run into the restaurant bathroom, while Big Paul would proceed to rob his girlfriend. Meanwhile, Rallo would run after Tripstar armed with a rifle, but when he chased him into the bathroom, Tripstar, who was hiding in the bathroom, would pull out his own gun and open fire, hitting Rallo. Rallo and Big Paul would then run out the restaurant and escape in a stolen black Nissan Maxima, along with another Young Mob member, Roddy P. But Rallo's injuries were serious, and with hospital not being an option, the two others would allegedly end up dropping Rallo off at a fire station, where he would later die from his injuries.
We have new details first at 6 on what happened in the wild moments that led to a shooting at a popular Harbortown restaurant. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Greg Hurst.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Skurlock. Tonight, police tell us one person has died and so far no arrests have been made. WRG's Shay Arthur has the latest.
Flashing blue lights, crime scene tapes surrounding a Harbortown shopping center, an unfamiliar sight on a busy Saturday night around dinner time.
I'm shaken. I'm shaken that my mother, my 85-year-old mother, was running, panting.
Here's what Memphis police tell us took place. Around 7:30, officers showed up after getting word shots were fired inside Tugs Casual Grill. When police arrived, they found two off-duty out-of-state officers inside the restaurant. While clearing the building, they heard a loud crash, discovering a man had fallen through the ceiling of the kitchen. In a report, police referred to him as both a victim and a suspect. He was detained, telling investigators he was on a date, eating with his girlfriend on the front porch of the restaurant when a black car pulled up. 2 people got out and chased him into the restaurant. He went into the bathroom and climbed into the ceiling, trying to escape. Detectives located a gun in the bathroom along with 22 spent shell casings next to the weapon. 2 men were seen taking off in a black Nissan Maxima. Minutes later, one of the suspects was dropped off at a nearby fire station, later dying at the hospital. Police called the case an attempted robbery.
Tripstar would later be asked about the attempted robbery during his no jumper interview, but he wouldn't have much to say, particularly as it was at the time a still open case.
Yeah, man.
So when did this other situation at the restaurant end up unfolding? That was more recent?
Yeah, it was recent. That probably like a month ago.
A month ago?
Probably less than a month.
So break it down for me. You're at a restaurant, just a regular restaurant?
Yeah, I'm in a restaurant eating outside.
Eating outside. And what, somebody tries to relieve you of your jewelry, I'm guessing?
For sure with the jury. Sure with the jury. Because I don't beef. Like I told them, from my city, I don't beef with no. Like, I'm getting money. I don't, I with the robbers. Like, they respect me. They with me in my city. I ain't never had no beef. I ain't never with nobody in my city. Like, everybody vouch for me, like, call anybody from my city, like, ask about me, like, they gonna tell you Trip just getting money, he don't know, like, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like, robbers don't even, like, they like, respect, like, because I show too much respect to the world, like.
Right.
So I'm showing Bones respect, junkie, I don't care what you is. Whatever.
And this was just like a random person thinking they were going to do something?
This shit, some guys jumped out on me.
Uh-huh. And how did you manage to get the upper hand in this situation, assuming that they had the element of surprise?
I'm just already paranoid. I'm just paranoid, always on point, looking like I'm just watching everything. I peeped some. I peeped it a couple times. I was already prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Did my shit.
It just got handled right there at the restaurant.
Yeah, self-defense.
Unfortunately for Young Mob, at this point the feds were already all up in their business, but it would still take some time before they would decide to strike, and in the meantime, havoc in the streets of Memphis would continue. Many people had lost their lives following the murder of young Dolph, but so far, none of the victims had been directly connected to the actual gang allegedly behind the murder, the Trulla Mafia. However, that was all about to change, because on the afternoon of June the 14th, 2023, police were called to Spotswood Avenue in the Orange Mound neighborhood, a Trulla Mafia stronghold, due to a report of a man who was shot to death inside of a car. When the police arrived, they discovered that the man was none other than Trulla Mafia member CEO TZ, real name Joshua Taylor, who had actually been killed the night before, and they were just only now discovering his body. Understandably assumed that TZ had been killed as get back for Dolph, and even TZ's girlfriend would diss Dolph and PRE on social media soon after TZ's death, while TZ's friend would remind their ops that Trulla Mafia was still leading the scoreboard. But another theory would also begin to spread as wild rumors begun swirling that Hernandez Govan, the alleged mastermind of the young Dolph hit, had CEO TZ taken out once TZ was revealed as a person of interest, with one YouTuber named Hood Educated speaking on the matter and saying that he was told by people close to the situation that this was a cleanup job.
Y'all see that? The man called Orange Mound Quet his brother, he real. You see him and Orange Mound Quet, they hugged up, you know what I'm saying? It just looked fishy, you know what I'm saying? It just looked fishy. All of a sudden, now he dead, shot and killed, location dropped, they knew he was there, lying and waiting on him and stuff like that. It just don't look right. It just don't seem right. But it shouldn't look right or seem right to us, because we not there. We not dealing with it. But if you hood educated and you been in that lifestyle, to them people that's living down there, that's playing in them streets, they know exactly what's going on. That's why I'm talking about almost all the people that reported to me from Memphis is saying that this is a cleanup job, hood educated. This right here this ain't got nothing to do with Paper Route Empire. This is a cleanup job. Teasy, he that connection. Teasy, he that connection that's gonna make that link to the big guy. And so he gotta be knocked off. He gotta be.
According to this theory, the fact that TZ had been a person of interest in the case but never officially charged may have caused some parties to think that he could possibly be snitching on the whole operation, leading to them wanting him gone. In an interview about No Jumper, Hernandez Govan was grilled by Poetic Flacco about his relationship with CEO TZ, with Flacco arguing that Govan was downplaying their relationship given all the evidence online that seemed to point to the two being extremely close for years, including the post from TZ talking about Govan as one of his closest associates.
So what's your relationship with CEO TZ?
CEO TZ is deceased.
No, sure, but like prior to him dying, was y'all some uncle and nephew? Was y'all day-to-day partners? What was your relationship with CEO TZ?
Prior to him getting killed, I was out on bond, and so of course I wasn't communicating with no individual, nobody related to the case at that point.
What? No, wait though. Sure.
You saying before Dolph got killed?
No. Listen, sure, but again, being out on bond really has nothing to do with the question. What was your relationship, right? Was y'all really?
It has a lot to do with the question, because when I was out on bond, I couldn't associate with anybody of the sort if I wanted to. Conditions of the bond.
No, hey, listen. Sure thing.
But if I seen, to answer your question, if I seen TZ somewhere while I was out on bond prior to his death, then yeah, me and TZ could have had the same conversation that we've had previously. We just wasn't in communication because of everything that was going on. I didn't care to communicate with him. You know, it was a lot of things that were done, a lot of things that were said, a lot of things happened, and things change.
I think you're downplaying like your connection to TZ for a reason. For example, TZ often posted that you are his OG. Mm-hmm. You are one of the people that he trusts the most. TZ even said,
you know what year that was? He posted that. That was in 2000. That was in 2016 when I was going to turn myself in to federal prison.
Sure. Wait.
Again, things happen over time.
No. Wait though. Hey, wait though. Sure thing. But y'all was at least close enough to where, bro, TZ is spam posting about you, talking about, man, listen, man, when Quack come home, I'm gonna toss him the keys to a 2020 bands. You feel me? So he had that much respect, and y'all was that locked in to where I don't feel like, bro, coming home and not speaking for a few months, bro, is gonna like say, hey, like bro, like we not as close. No, y'all were still very close, right? Like that was little bro.
But then Govan would make a shocking revelation, saying that TZ couldn't have been his little bro very recently because his name was on a witness list.
How can that be my little bro when his name was on the witness list? Honda, you heard me. I said, how can that be my little bro if his name was on the witness list?
And he betrayed you, cool. But prior to you knowing he betrayed you,
how long
that was somebody
you don't know how long
a strong friendship with.
You don't know how long I knew his name was. You don't know how long I knew that or how long I knew that information. You don't know. It's several reasons. A lot of things that TZ may or may have not done to make me put distance between us, to make me not reach out to him when I got out on bond. When I got out on bond, I wasn't jumping at the opportunity of hanging with no motherfucker that might put me in a situation to violate my bond. Go ahead.
Wait, here. No, I'm talking about before Young Dolph's death, for example.
I just asked you that. If you talking about before Young Dolph's death, then that was my little bro. Yeah, for sure.
But whatever the relationship between Govan and TZ may have been at the time of Dolph's murder, by the summer of 2023, the case that had rocked Memphis and reverberated through the hip-hop world would finally seem to be moving towards resolution, as Govan, in a highly controversial decision, was granted bond under strict house arrest conditions. But while this seemed like a great deal for Govan, in a way his release meant trading the controlled danger of a jail cell for the unpredictable insecurity of the streets of Memphis, where those loyal to Dolph were still actively seeking revenge. Meanwhile, Justin Straight Drop Johnson continued facing turmoil behind bars as reports surfaced that he'd been being caught with drugs and a contraband cell phone. Then in June 2023 came one of the first major turning points when Jamarcus Johnson, Straight Drop's half-brother, pleaded guilty to lesser charges of helping the shooters evade police. In exchange for his cooperation and a promise to testify against the others, his potential 60-year sentence was reduced to a maximum of 12 years. The following month, the court set a joint trial of Straight Drop and Cornelia Smith to begin in May 2024. But in reality, it wouldn't begin until September 2024, almost 3 years after Dolph's death, when the trial would actually begin. But in the meantime, the non-stop killing that had now been going on for almost 2 years since Dolph's passing would show no signs of slowing down. In early July 2023, one of the Young Mob founders, the rapper BEO Lil Kenny, was released from prison after being gone for over 4 years, hitting the streets immediately with a First Day Out music video which would end up going viral, now having over 2 million views. The Young Mob's dynamic duo Lil Kenny and Stupid Duke were now both in the streets, which would further heat up the rivalries. And only a few months would pass when another KSBG member would end up losing their life. On the early morning of the 26th of October, KSBG member Big Grape was at a gas station in Whitehaven when a silver Infiniti pulled up and at least one shooter would exit the vehicle, opening fire and killing Big Grape while injuring a second victim.
Here is a sad update to a story that we've been following all morning. One man is dead after a shooting at a fill and save gas station near the airport. Officers were called to this scene on your screen just before 1 a.m. this morning at the intersection of Winchester and Hermitage. Memphis police confirmed 2 people were shot here. One man later died at the hospital and the other person is recovering. Police, however, are still looking for the shooter.
The murder of Big Grape would receive very little attention in the media, but in online spaces like Reddit, a post would later appear of alleged paperwork about an investigation into Young Mob, which alleged that an informant had told an investigator on the 27th of October 2023 about a homicide that a Young Mob member called Mitch had allegedly recently committed, the timing matching eerily closely with the murder of Big Grape that had just taken place the previous day. But if Young Mob was truly behind this murder, this time the get back from KSBG would seemingly come almost immediately. Already that same night, at around 9 p.m, the Young Mob rapper Big Motor, real name Jaron Rutherford, and another alleged Young Mob member called TJ, real name Travolta Jones, were driving in a black Nissan Maxima on Tullahoma Road near the East Rains Road intersection when a car pulled up beside them and someone inside let off more than a dozen rounds, hitting both Motor and TJ, whose car would then crash into a tree. TJ would pass away on the scene, but Big Motor would be taken to hospital in critical condition, where he too would unfortunately succumb to his injuries the following day.
Fans and friends say Big Motor's music was making a name for the artist in the hip-hop community, and they call what happened to him yet another tragic shooting involving a Memphis rapper.
Ain't nothing I can say bad about him, you know, but in this city, man, you get some type of shine on you, man, they gonna hate on you, and somebody gonna come at you some kind of way, one way or another.
Right now, police are still trying to figure out what led up to the shooting and find the person responsible, as neighbors remain on alert.
2 different shootings and 3 murders in less than 24 hours made it seem like the war in the streets of Memphis couldn't get any worse, but coming into 2024, there would be another murder that would send real shockwaves not just through the city, but through the entire rap game. In January 2024, all the claims about Yo Gotti's brother Big Juk participating in the murder of young Dolph that would eventually come out during the trial was still largely non-existent, although there were certainly rumours, as online sleuths had dug up photos like this one of Big Juk and Hernandez Govan together, showing a clear affiliation between the two. Moreover, Big Juk had certainly shown his disdain for Dolph publicly, even after his death, with one example being Big Juk mocking a mural that was painted in Dolph's honour.
I don't paint no side, too real with a in the middle, man. Y'all don't do that, man. Don't f about legacy. So right here, y'all. 2 guys.
Shortly after Dolph's death, Big Juk had also posted a video to his Instagram stories where he could be heard asking certain rappers to hit him up for financial help, with Juk offering to pay for studio time in any cars the rappers are leasing and renting, while even advising these rappers to pawn their jewelry if necessary, in what seemed like a thinly veiled diss towards PRE's remaining roster after their CEO's death.
Hey, y'all. I'm finna start a GoFundMe, man, cause I know a lot of you rap up out here, man. Can't do no shows. Ain't save no money. So guess what? I'm gonna come save today. I'm gonna come pay you rent if y'all got somewhere to stay. I'll pay your car note. I'll pay your jewelry note so you won't get repoed. You feel me? Whatever else you renting or leasing, I'm gonna pay that. But when this break back over, I want 10% of what you make. I'm
I'm saving you in a crucial time, so don't think I'm trying to get over on you. Cause you don't want to get put out. That'll ruin your career. So just hit my DM, man. We ain't gonna put business out there. We ain't that tight. You feel me? We can put it in contract. This will never be talked about. You feel me? I'll be so far out the way that won't nobody even know the deal we made. You feel me?
Then, on January the 13th, 2024, Big Jerk and Yo Gotti would attend the funeral service to honour the brothers' late uncle, Eric Govan. The very same Eric Govan mentioned earlier in this video, whose Govan family gang controlled the city's drug trade during the 80s, and whom Jerk described as a legendary kingpin. After the funeral, at around 4:15 p.m, as Big Jerk and the rest of the funeral guests were attending Govan's repast at the Perignon's restaurant and event centre, a police officer nearby would hear multiple gunshots. And when they arrived at the scene, 2 victims were found with several gunshot wounds, one of these being Big Jerk, who was pronounced dead at the hospital, while the second male victim would end up in stable condition. News would report of the murder soon after.
A deadly shooting in Hickory Hill with connections to Memphis rapper Yo Gotti. Fox 13's Lakia Scott joins us live tonight from St. Francis Hospital. That's where the victims were taken. Lakia, what were you able to find out? Good evening to you.
Good evening, Daniel. Well, at least 5 police sources have confirmed with Fox 13 that the person killed is Anthony Mims, also known as Big Jerk.
Right now, we do have video that we're analyzing, but we don't have a clear suspect identified at this time. But we know that a weapon was used, a firearm was used in this incident. We do feel like the individual that was shot was possibly targeted by the suspect.
And footage from the scene would also circulate on Reddit, with captions saying how people are still sliding for Dolph. And a picture of Jerk's alleged body would even circulate, but it's definitely too graphic to show on YouTube. Witnesses at the scene claim to have seen multiple suspects in a white SUV, and an image of the car would be released from surveillance videos showing how license plates had been removed from the vehicle. It was alleged on Reddit that during the funeral, many attendees noticed 3 men in all black sitting at the back, who apparently left early after they spotted Gotti and Jerk. And after Jerk and his security guard left the funeral and drove to the repast location, these people followed them and started shooting as soon as they arrived in the restaurant parking lot. Not long after the murder of Jerk, PRE members like Paper Route Wu would go on social media to mock his death, while PRE affiliated comedian Grove Hero would also go on Instagram Live talking in detail about how happy he was on this day that Big Jerk was killed.
What's up with him, man? You straight, ain't it? Good. Yeah, today a blessed day. Nah, go ahead, it's cool. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, today feel good in the month. Feel so good outside. Hell yeah, up to man, it's nicer today. Hell yeah. Man, I'm loving the breeze. It feels so good. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna wait for a minute. For sure, you too. Man, today feel good as hell. Whew. God damn. Man. Woo. Boy. Today a lovely day, ain't it? Who watching, bro? What you talking about? I said play crazy here. You know them people. Who watching, bro? What you talking about? What is y'all talking about, bro? The Dolphins won today. Miami Dolphins won today. So tell me about the Dolphins. Did the Dolphins win today? I'm trying to see. Did somebody tell me, is it the NFL championship or what? Did the Miami Dolphins win today? God damn, man. I ain't trying to tell nothing. Real talk, man. Man, let me enjoy this, man. I'm finna lay down, man. All right, real good.
But PRE members weren't the only ones to participate in the dissing, as one other party to diss Jerk heavily would turn out to be none other than Young Mob. During his From the Block freestyle performance, posted on YouTube in February 2024, only about a month after Jerk's murder, BEO Lil Kenny would throw shots at him, rapping how Young Mob comes to get their ops like bounty hunters and that somebody's brother got killed in front of their mother, which appears to be a direct reference to news reports that Gotti and Jerk's mother may have actually been in the car witnessing Jerk getting killed. But just to add to the disrespect, and to possibly further incriminate himself, Kenny would continue by rapping how there's no way that that he can miss his target because of his fat stomach, which appears to be another direct reference to Juke's build. Juke's murder still remains unsolved, even with the Memphis police likely continuing to spend significant resources on the investigation. But meanwhile, the body count will keep rising, as yet another KSBG member would end up losing their life too. On the 8th of June 2024, 17-year-old KSBG and Chopper Gang member Jay Hott, real name Javonta Newsom, was on the 4700 block of Janetta Street near Shelby Drive in the West Haven neighborhood, when people in the area would hear gunshots and call the police, who would find badly injured Jay Hott and take him to hospital where he would pass away. The following day, the RR rapper CEO Jizzle would post a cryptic message on Facebook, sharing his old post from March 2024, where he referred to a time that he had gotten shot, saying that at the time, he had to decide if he would retaliate or let God handle it, and that he'd chosen God, while now simply adding a caption saying that God don't play about Jizzle. He was likely referring to a September 2023 incident where Jizzle had gotten shot during the Lil Baby concert at the FedEx Forum.
Memphis police say the shooting happened around 10:30 last night during a show that featured Lil Baby and Glorilla. Police tell us they believe that the shooting was premeditated and the victim was targeted.
Now, Fox 13 has learned the victim was Jalen Johnson, I should say. He's a rapper known as CEO Jizzle. He's also Young Dolph's cousin. He's been posting videos from his hospital bed on social media telling his fans that he's okay.
At the time, another RR member, Kato 2 times, real name Kevin Young, was arrested for the shooting.
While an arrest has been made in that shooting that happened inside the FedEx Forum earlier this month, this was all during a Lil Baby concert. You might recall it left a Memphis rapper injured.
This caused online sleuths and YouTubers to create theories that there was actually an internal beef within RR, but now many would see Jizzle's post to confirm that it had in fact been a shooting between KSBG and RR, with Jay Hott having been the possible shooter. Jay Hott's death was seemingly particularly hard for Big 30, who would change his Facebook profile picture to a photo of Jay Hott while posting a heartfelt message to him, together with the hashtag I'ma miss my little brother. However, on Reddit, the rumor mill would paint somewhat of a different picture, as many would claim that Jay Hott had actually been backdoored by his own friends. According to one version of the story, the killing would simply be due to an argument over a gun, and even CEO Jizzle would post on his Instagram stories private messages that he had exchanged with Jay Hott after he'd allegedly shot Jizzle at the Lil Baby concert, where Jay Hott seemed to acknowledge that his friends weren't really his friends, while Jizzle would caption the story by saying how he had told Jay Hott how his friends weren't his real friends. One of these alleged killers, known as J-Bug, would himself be killed in April 2025 before ever even getting the chance to turn 18 years old, showing just how senseless the violence had become in Memphis. But while Young Mob may have not been behind this latest tragedy, their time of causing havoc in the streets of Memphis was up, because in July 2024, the feds would announce that they had indicted 15 people on drug trafficking and firearm charges. This original indictment included 8 alleged Young Mob members and affiliates, such as none other than Stupid Duke, aka Brian Lackland, as well as guys like Big Paul, aka Paul Nelson, Moski, aka Mohammed Samba, and Roddy P, aka Gerard Cox. But notably, BEO Lil Kenny wouldn't be part of the list. Things would get even stickier when in December, news would report that Stupid Duke and Big Paul were charged in relation to the robbery attempt of Tripstar, which had left their friend Rallo dead, while Moski and Quinton Moss were charged in relation to the murder of Cheese Dollar. Then, about 1 year after the Young Mob members had been indicted as part of the drug and gun case, on the 18th of July 2025, the feds would announce that they were charging Stupid Duke and the 7 other Young Mob members with a RICO in relation to all of these crimes, with the indictment including in-depth descriptions about Young Mob, like how the gang had gotten started in 2007 in Walker Homes and Westwood neighborhoods by 8 original founders who represented national gangs like the Bloods, Crips, GDs, and Vice Lords. The indictment would also claim that the members were required to commit acts of violence to maintain membership, adding that Young Mob maintained rivalries with gangs like Fam Mob, Fast Cash, and KSBG. Moreover, based on a 91-page affidavit that was filed as part of the original 2024 complaint that led to the arrest of Stupid Duke and others, which has since been sealed, but was seemingly acquired by a Redditor before that who would post some pages of it online, on March 2024, Stupid Duke was casually having a phone call with one of his hitters who told Duke that members of Pooh Shiesty's Chopper Gang were hanging out on a street corner, essentially asking Duke's permission to slide on them, to which Duke appeared to agree. This caused the police to send troops to the location before anything bad could happen. But on Reddit, people would also take note of how CEO Jizzle from RR has taken part in dissing Chopper Gang, making it clear which side of the war Pooh Shiesty was about to take upon his release from prison.
In the club screaming out Stash Squad. You know them bitches got beat by the whole mob. Chopper Gang.
And it was likely this same affidavit that would also include rather humorous pictures that would later make their way to Reddit, with one showing Duke taking out the trash while openly carrying a huge gun, showing that Duke was not somebody to be caught lacking. Young Mob's head honcho was now out of the game once again, after having seemingly caused an untold amount of destruction in the streets of Memphis in just a few years' time since his release in 2021. But unfortunately, this wouldn't stop the bloodshed, and in August of 2025, another Memphis rapper would lose their life in one of the most insane shootouts that the city had likely ever seen. On the 10th of August 2025, the killing would continue, but this time in North Memphis, more specifically in Frazier, at the suburbs, on the area of Macaulay Drive and Macaulay Cove, where the police would be called about a shooting just after midnight. When they arrived at the scene, they would find several houses that had been struck by gunfire. After checking the surrounding area, the police would find a man dead at the intersection of Maritavia Street and Georgian Drive, about half a mile away from the location of the shooting. They would also find out that the incident had been caught on multiple security cameras, showing an insane shootout that sounded like a literal war zone, as switch after switch can be heard going off in unison. As shooters from two different cars appeared to blast away at each other until one of the cars reverses out of the situation towards the Macaulay Avenue, and soon the second car does the same, seemingly attempting to either follow the first car or simply get out of the dead end, Macaulay Cove, to flee the scene. Not long after the first news about the shooting broke, an update would come in that the dead body found near the scene was that of fast cash rapper C Money, real name Courtney Smith, who was still only 29 years old, even though he'd been involved in the Memphis rap scene for well over a decade. During a vigil for him some days later, another incident would take place as 3 masked and armed men arrived at the location, leading to a police chase, after which the trio were arrested, including Tyrone Perkins, Derek Walton, and Khalid New.
Derek Walton and Khalid New are 2 of 3 masked men who MPD say attempted to disrupt a peaceful vigil for murdered Memphis rapper Fast Cash C Money. They both have run from police before after committing some serious crimes. Less than a month ago, police arrested New after he ran from officers on the scene of a car accident. Officers charged him with several charges that range from having a gun and drugs. More digging into New's background shows he's even faced charges after an ex-girlfriend told police he shot at her while driving, causing her to crash with her daughter in the back seat. Derek Walton is the other man police arrested at the vigil Friday. A court convicted him of robbery in 2018. He's been in trouble with the law dating back to 2014. Court records show he spent time in jail for several violent crimes that involve kidnapping, burglary, and robbery.
However, at least one of these guys, Khalid New, is actually a Fast Cash affiliate known as NFC G-Ski, meaning that more likely these were simply Fast Cash affiliates coming to pay their respects to a fallen friend, not the ops trying to spin the vigil. However, almost immediately as the news about C Money's passing reached the fans, a speculation begun about the possible suspects, with Young Mob naturally being one of the obvious choices given their years-long beef with North Memphis gangs like the Fast Cash Boys. But by far the most viral rumor was that C Money's death was allegedly connected to events that had taken place on the same street the previous day, as video would be posted online claiming to portray C Money's associate, a rapper called Lil Cuz from Moneybagg Yo's Bread Gang label, getting robbed. However, Lil Cuz himself would deny this ever happening.
PSA, man, let me clear that up right now, man. They want me on no video getting stretched out on no ground. Zoom in, I got any 10,000 right now. They can zoom in and show me that me. They want me on no video getting stretched out on all my dead.
But whatever the case, the person actually living on the street was allegedly a CMG-affiliated rapper called Lil Migo, another friend of C Money, who would allegedly call C Money on the night of his death, fearing that he was about to get robbed, causing C Money to arrive at the location, which then led to the shootout captured by security cameras. There would particularly be one party online who was celebrating C Money's death more than anyone, a cousin of late Memphis rapper Bankboy Wayne, real name Thedrick Morton, who was killed in 2019. The murder was never solved, but according to online rumors and Bankboy Wayne's own mother, he was backdoored by none other than CMG Lil Migo, who would then supposedly steal Wayne's style. As he'd been getting major momentum before his death, his music videos now having millions of views, including one of his songs together with Lil Migo himself, which now stands at almost 5 million views on YouTube. Clearly, people close to Bankboy Wayne, like his cousin, would believe in this theory, and he would seemingly also claim C Money to have been involved, even seemingly implying that for years, C Money had been trolling and throwing subliminals about backdooring in his music. But given that there were already rumors about Lil Migo backdooring another rapper in the past, it was only a matter of time before rumors would begin to spread how he had now also backdoored C Money. Lil Migo himself would eventually respond to all these rumors, essentially denying having had anything to do with the situation while paying tribute to C Money. But while the killing had continued in the streets of Memphis like clockwork, the slow wheels of justice had finally reached conclusions in the cases against the alleged suspects behind the murder of young Dolph. By September of 2024, the murder of young Dolph had finally reached the courtroom.
This grainy photo released by police shows a person in gray pants and a dark hoodie, with gun in hand, apparently firing. Also released a photo of a white car that may be linked to the case.
Earlier that year, the judge ruled that jurors must come from outside Shelby County, in a rare step taken to protect fairness in a case saturated by media and public emotion. From the outset, prosecutors came prepared with a plethora of evidence, including surveillance footage, cell phone records, and testimony from Jamarcus Johnson, Straight Drop's half-brother. However, the biggest revelation would come from the co-defendant Cornelia Smith, who would testify on the stand that Big Jook had placed a $100,000 hit on young Dolph's head, a plan allegedly relayed to Smith and Straight Drop by Hernandez Govan.
Who had a hit on whose head?
Big Jook had a hit on Dolph head or whatnot, so.
How do you know that Big Jook had a hit on Dolph's head?
Quick had told me about it, Quick, and you know what I'm saying, being just.
How much money was it supposed to be?
$100,000 on Dolph head.
And had you agreed to do this hit?
Yes, sir.
Had Justin agreed to do this hit?
Yes, sir.
We all going to do it together?
According to Smith, he and Straight Drop agreed to carry out the hit, planning to give Govan $10,000 each and keep $40,000 each.
Was there any arrangements as far as splitting money or anything?
Yeah, me and him supposed to be giving Quick $10,000 apiece.
All right, so you and him are going to give Govan $10,000 apiece?
Yeah.
And how much were you going to get?
I was getting 40, he was getting 40.
Okay.
Moreover, he explained that they had planned ahead of time for Thanksgiving week, since PRE artists would be out in public handing out turkeys to the community.
The fair said you knew Dolph was involved in these turkey drives this week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we didn't know we were going to catch him, but we knew he did his artists. Everybody had a hit on him. Everybody had a price on him.
From Joe?
Yeah.
Yet what followed the shooting revealed the cracks in their alliance, as Smith claimed that after the hit, Straight Drop ran off with the money, leaving him with only $800 of the promised amount. A move that had people in the comments sympathizing and understanding the reason why he snitched, while others joked that Drop had probably spent all the cash on Gucci cars and music videos.
He gave her $500 in a letter.
$500 in a letter.
Yeah.
And obviously you're supposed to get $40,000.
Right.
But you got $500 in a letter.
You team right here. We don't know who it was, but they gave her $300.
$300?
Yeah.
Okay. This is from Justin's folks?
Yeah, this from Justin's folks.
All right, so now we've been paid about $800.
Yeah.
During cross-examination, it was then revealed that Smith's lawyer had received $50,000, money that allegedly came from CMG.
Wait for a response.
The original lawyer in your case got $50,000 to represent you. Did he not?
I don't know exactly how much you get. I don't know. I
Okay.
can't say.
All right. And you knew that, just we're all clear here, that money came from CMG, right?
Yeah, I don't know exactly who, but yeah.
All right.
But in the end, the evidence proved overwhelming, and after only 2 hours of deliberation, the jury would find Straight Drop guilty and sentenced him to life in prison.
13th juror, I affirm this verdict. As to the first-degree murder, I sentence you to life in prison.
Drop would also receive 35 additional years for conspiracy and firearms charges, his sentence marking the closing of one chapter in the young Dolph case, though it was clear that the full story was still far from over. With Big Jook seemingly a victim of so-called street justice, the next person to face trial was the alleged mastermind behind young Dolph's murder, Hernandez Govan. In the months leading up to the trial, prosecutors assembled a mosaic of evidence they believe connected Govan to the ambush. But as the case developed, plea negotiations also quietly unfolded, but Govan refused a deal and demanded his day in court. And finally, in August 2025, Hernandez Govan's murder trial begun, one of Memphis's most anticipated courtroom moments since Dolph's 2021 murder. During the opening statements, the prosecutors painted Govan as the silent architect that never touched a weapon but made sure the guns were fired. The prosecutors relied heavily on testimony from co-defendant Cornelia Smith Jr., who claimed that Govan relayed the $100,000 bounty supposedly placed on Dolph's head by Gotti's brother Big Jook, along with other bounties on rappers from Dolph's Paper Route Empire label.
I guess after a couple runs of going to buy pills on my own from, he started asking me I want to make some money. He knew ways I get some money. I'm like, yeah.
According to Smith, Govan had supplied him with the weapon used in an earlier attempted hit on Paper Route Woo, though the gun jammed during the shootout.
Well, one day, Mr. Govan had provided me with a gun, and he told us that Paper Route Woo was at home one day. So as we approached the house, with me, Bobby, Justin, and another guy, I don't know the other guy's name, Bobby dropped me off, I get out walking on foot. Paper Route Woo coming out the house. And he had his gun in his hand at the time, and I was walking up the street. And me and him had a shootout or whatever. and the gun he provided me had jammed up. So, you know, I had to duck and Bob and weed, and Bobby had got to me. We got in the car and went back to his house and reported what had happened to him.
Wu himself would later confirm the shooting happened during his off-the-porch interview.
But that's exactly how it happened. Exactly how he said it in court. Walking past, I was coming down, and I was going to my car, and I got the shoes, and Wu shot back, had them bobbing and weaving. It was, yeah, bro. You know what I'm saying?
As Smith continued, he revealed what he called Govan's plans to get close to Wu's mother to learn the whereabouts of other PRE members.
Any one of them, like Wu or anybody in paper route, he was gonna make sure that, you know, he could play, because the mama liked him, so he was gonna try to play their father figure and, you know, find out where they at and make sure we could reach out and touch them.
And he also recounted being invited to appear in a Straight Drop music video filmed at the same house where the white Mercedes-Benz used in the shooting was later found. And the prosecutors presented a photo showing Smith masked and standing behind Govan in that interview. After the shooting, Smith said that the plan had been to burn the Mercedes, but their injuries forced them to seek medical help instead.
That wasn't part of the plan.
Had you not got shot, was there a plan in place?
We probably would have just took the car back, you know, jumped in another car. Went and burnt the car up, something like that. But we both got shot or whatever, and I was bleeding tremendously bad. We took the car back.
Smith even alleged that he had left his phone in the vehicle and that Govan was the one to retrieve it.
So I was like, man, get my phone out the car. I like, get my phone. I left my phone in the car too. Get my phone out the car. He like, all right, meet me where I get my car wash at. So I like, all right, bet, say no more. So we had cleaned up.
Yet despite the detailed account, the evidence remained largely circumstantial, and there was no direct proof linking Govan to the payment, or any kind of explicit order for the hit. And after just 2 days of testimony and 3 hours of jury deliberation, the trial reached its conclusion. And on August the 21st, 2025, a Shelby County jury acquitted Hernandez Govan on all counts, including first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder charges, delivering a blunt reality that in the courtroom, strong accusations and colorful testimony aren't always enough to meet the constitutional burden of proof.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Hernandez Govan, not guilty in count 2 of the indictment. Ma'am?
Court's in session.
And following his acquittal, Govan announced his plans to leave Memphis, and soon after, he began using his trial notoriety to build his social media presence, appearing in interviews on large platforms like Vlad TV and No Jumper. Meanwhile, in September 2025, Paper Route Wu released his Rick Owens music video, which opened with a reenactment of his own attempted assassination.
Like I said, the gun had jammed up. I was on foot walking up, and he was coming at the house.
In response, Govan posted a video calling out Wu and referencing court claims that Wu had called the police during the shooting.
Hey Wu, somebody sent me your movie you and Grove doing. I checked the trailer out. It was some great production. This looked good. And I figured the bald head dude at the beginning of the video was me, or whatever the dude that was, I guess, supposed to be giving an order or some shit, whatever. Do not leave out the part where you call 911 in the middle of a shootout.
On August 13th at 13:45 hours, we have the 911 call where Terrence Baker's cellular device calls and says that he's at Allendale being shot at and he's hiding, being shot at and he's hiding, being shot at and he's hiding.
At this point in time, Cornelius Smith has yet to face his day in court, and while Straight Drop's sentencing brought closure on paper, in reality, Young Dolph's death left a scar on Memphis, one that time alone may never heal. And while it didn't necessarily spark a wave of direct revenge killings, it did set things in motion and push the streets into a cycle that would claim far too many lives. And at a certain point, the reasons for the war just stopped mattering. I hope you found this video interesting. Rest in peace to everyone who lost their lives.